link for this week.
If anything,
Hi guys.
See you
welcome.
The holidays, then.
Yes.
There we go.
But I'm, in this time when we don't necessarily get a lot of time with our family, I'm blessed to be with mine, and so I had to take advantage of it.
Exactly.
But thank you guys so much, and I may come back later, but I did want to be here at the beginning to say that I really value the table, and I'm so glad to be part of it.
Cool.
And I'll see you guys soon.
Great. Yay.
Family.
Yay. So this is Marc and Elaine. We're doing the simulcast with Mr. Sci-Fi. And
Marc, you are muted.
Uh-oh.
On our end.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Hold on. There we go.
There you are.
Yay. So it's the live simulcast, Mr. Sci-Fi and the table. Happy holidays, everyone. And next year, let's hope we're all together physically, as well as, we'll all be in the hot tub or whatever. So, okay. So, so Adam, I don't assume there's any Mr. Sci-Fi questions yet.
No, not yet, but new people are tuning in right as we speak.
Great. Terrific. So, why don't we go with you, Christine, if you want to take your turn?
Hi, I'm Christine Laurie. I am a personal assistant, currently looking for something as we move into the new year. And I am very excited to be with the table. I find it very valuable to come and have an ask, come and have a share, and it's very supportive in everything. So that's great. I did have a question, Marc.
Sure, and you might want to move a little closer to the mic. You're a little soft. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, go for it.
Soft-spoken anyhow. David used to tell me, "Speak up! I can't hear you."
Yeah.
So someone had asked a question, and I said I would pose it because they could not be here tonight.
Sure.
They wondered who is the person, if they're still around, who is willing to read and review 10 pages of a script.
Well, that was Stuart. I don't know what. But you have to be there. You have to be a member of the table in good standing. I mean, you can't just be like someone out in the hinterlands.
But you would be.
They are a table member, and they
good.
posed that question. Well.
Okay, great. That's great. Yeah. Anything else you need, Chris?
She wants to know how to do that.
How to do it?
Yes. How do you do it?
David Bartlett can connect you up with Stuart.
Are you connected to Stuart,
Darling?
David?
Yeah, he is. He was just nodding yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted. So we can't hear you unless you do.
I'll email David.
Yeah.
About it.
Great. Terrific. Okay. Cool. So
if there's any if there's any kind of glitch, Howard, I think, will be in touch with
yeah,
Stuart.
of course. And anything else you need, Christine?
A hug, but you're not here.
We'll do.
There's a hug in spirit.
Yes. But great. But
so what's
yeah.
up? What's up with you personally?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. So I'm learning to use my little MacBook, and I'm a new telephone. So now I have an Apple product there, and just learning different new technologies and using those skills as I move into the new year.
Wow.
Wow, great.
Well, great. Terrific. So anything else?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Well, 3 cheers. Yay. Now, I don't know if all of you can see Bartlett's on the screen with different expressions and different angles. So I think those are, we're seeing how David would have turned out in another dimension, but there's.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, but you're echoing crazily.
Thanks for feedback.
Yeah, I'd turn off one of those two things.
Well, he's got one of them muted, but we're still getting feedback.
Yeah, no, it's
I'm gonna mute me now.
Okay.
Love you guys.
Thank you, Christine.
Hold on. Bye. So So Adam, is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question?
It was an attempt to use my iPhone for my camera, and it worked for the camera, but not the sound. So I'll figure it out later.
Okay, great. So Adam, is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, we have a question from Hayes494.
Great. Hi, Hayes.
Oh, this is an interesting.
Look out.
He says, if I may ask, why aren't you a fan of Star Trek Voyager and Kate Mulgrew? And if you did work on Voyager, what would you have done differently?
Let me see. That's a challenging question. There are certain things about Star Trek Voyager I liked. Obviously, Robert Picardo was terrific. I liked 7 of 9 very much. I've always found Kate Mulgrew a fairly limited actor. And so basically, I mean, she's better than Geneviève Bujold if you go onto YouTube and watch Geneviève Bujold attempting to do the role before she was replaced by Kate Mulgrew. But I just found her limited and a little bit strident. It was just a personal thing on my part. But there were many good things about that show. But compared with DS9, Deep Space Nine, that was on pretty much at the same time, the same years, Deep Space Nine was just so much better. And it was just a personal, because I think the Star Trek episodes I did not like, particularly in Next Gen and DS9 and Voyager, were the ones that were sort of just puzzle boxes and or ones that were solved by tech. And the ones I did like were the ones that went into emotional territory, into something profound like Far Beyond the Stars. And so Voyager, I often felt that I wasn't getting enough bang for the buck in when I would watch an episode. And again, that's just a personal feeling. But again, I didn't watch all of them. How would I have redone it? See, the problem is that it was basically like Gilligan's Island in space. I mean, it was, they're lost, and, they're hoping they'll be saved. And it's like, oh man, which I found less interesting than, Next Gen, and the original Star Trek, which was Voyages of Discovery. I think that by the time we got to Voyager, the writing, some of the writers were kind of tired of Star Trek, and it shows. And so they were just kind of going over a lot of old territory. Also, there's certain characters that they never really established, like Chakotay, I think could have been really developed a lot more. So that's sort of it. Long-winded answer. So, so let's see. So returning to the table, how about Dave Edison? You want to take your turn? Go for it. Uh-oh, look out. There you go.
There you go.
That's overly cautious, Dave.
Well, you never know these days, do you?
Well, sometimes you do, yes.
Well, and sometimes you doesn't.
Yes, but I guess you've gone around the bend. But go ahead, please.
Well, I have to say that your ability to talk through that mask is better than most people's ability to talk through that mask.
Yes. Yeah.
So, all right, I'll risk it.
Yes, wow, there you go. Just don't lick the screen.
Yeah.
Now you're asking for too much.
Well, yeah, I always do.
Yeah, that's true. Hi, everyone. Happy, happy Hanukkah. It's the first night of Hanukkah. To those of you
yes.
who celebrate, happy Hanukkah. As you know, many of you know, I'm non-religious. My wife lights the candles.
Yes.
Which is odd because, well, she's not particularly religious. She's not Jewish, but she is a pyromaniac.
Well, there you go. I thought you were going to say that she lights the candles and you, as an atheist, put them out.
That would have worked too. We're going to run that by the by the executive producers.
Yes.
So we've been working on Space Command, as you might have guessed.
Yes.
I am the editor of Space Command, and so let's see. I'm just emailing Tom back. He has some questions about some focal lengths on some lenses, which I actually don't know that I have the information for. It was many years ago, but I'll see if I can track it down for him. Other than that, we got new VFX shots.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to send you, Mark, a new version as soon as our composer, David Rakeland, sends me some clean music.
Great.
I just got to lay it in a little more accurately.
Yeah, I just hate the swear words he puts in the music.
Yeah.
Yes. And I did an interesting thing today. I was interviewed.
Oh, really?
I was interviewed on a project that I did 18 years ago. The fact that this thing has any kind of life or interest or has become in any way a cult program is remarkable. Those of you on Mr. Siffy might, is that how it's pronounced?
Yes, exactly.
Might have heard of this show. It's the worst Christmas animated special ever. I mean, including all future evers.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Believe in Santa, the Rhapsody Kids and Believe in Santa.
Mm-hmm.
And it's too long or dull to go into, but it was done with this animation software that the director was somehow involved in creating, and it was the only thing we could do to crank out this show in the 3-month time that we had. The very few of us had to do it. So to say it was awful would be accurate and an understatement. You can find it on YouTube. There are videos of people watching it.
Wow.
In horror.
Wow.
There's one person posted it, and there are 6,000 comments and replies. So it's just absurd. Anyway, so I spoke with this reporter from, I believe it's Polygon.com, and he was writing an article about it. I was talking to a number of the people involved, and so I told him what I know. So anyway, if you're interested in seeing the worst animated special, Christmas special ever, punch up Believe in Santa, the Rhapsody Kids and Believe in Santa, and you might even want to look at the sequel, which never aired, by the way, called Wolf Tracer's Dinosaur Island.
Wow.
And there's also Dinosaur Island Part 2, which isn't even on YouTube. It was never quite finished. We never did the sound effects on it. And I have a copy of that, and it will never be released.
Wow.
So anyway, so just keeping busy and feeling healthy so far. I hope you are too. And Marc, Elaine, everything going okay over there?
Yeah, life is exciting. I was just watching 103, and I think it's there's not a lot we have to do to it. I think it's really solid.
For the listeners, 103 is of course the next door neighbors that he's just watching on Sunday.
Yes. It's the third hour of Space Command that we're going to be releasing shortly.
Yes.
So
season 1, episode 3,
yes,
103.
Yes.
So so we're racing to try to finish that as well, but we'll get you 102 before then.
Yes, we will.
And hopefully sooner than what's the other thing? Oh yeah, later. Anyway, stay well, feel good. Best to all of you and yours for the holiday season, and I will catch up with you probably next time.
Thank you, Dave. Yay! Cheers. So is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Yes, we've got a question from Bob Rich.
Great. Hi, Bob.
Who asks, when writing for TV, film, and literature, what are practical ways to maximize the amount of emotion in storytelling? How can we make stories with strong emotion when enjoyed for the 10th time?
It's not so much about strong emotion. It's about emotional truth. So the trick is really getting a sense of what you believe in, what you feel, what resonates with you, and not writing on the nose, which means you don't just have people saying what they're feeling. You have to dramatize it. You have to have subtext. I mean, all of that stuff. So really study, like a movie like Aliens, study why you feel what you feel when you watch it. Why do you like certain characters? Why are you moved by certain actions? Really study the films that work for you emotionally and take it apart, because it can really guide you and aid you. I mean, the thing is that if there's a truth at the heart of something that conveys well, then people often will want to watch it over and over again because it takes them to a certain emotional place. So that's some of it. I mean, it's really, but
one thing that is sometimes helpful is if you've been through various kinds of strong emotional encounters, try and play them through in your mind, because and play through the complexities. Tell somebody about that event, about what you were able to say, what you weren't able to say, what the other person said, and what the other person was withholding, what kind of dance there was, what kind of emotional self-protection, or even your protection of the other person, of not saying the real thing. Try and play through the complexities of what actually happens, because sometimes these things just happen dead on, where it's in our head and it's not in our memory. And so the more that you write down moments of rage, moments of fear, moments of profound caring or concern, and you see how complex they are, it really helps you put together a like scene and keeps the emotion alive.
Yeah. So that's some of it. And by the way, for those Table fans and Mr. Sci-Fi fans, we now have 12 spacesuits at Space Command, and the new one's behind me there. It's from the movie Outland, a great science fiction movie starring Sean Connery. And for the Mr. Sci-Fi fans, I can kind of show it to them there. So it's pretty fun. And so we now have spacesuits from all sorts of things, aliens and Outland and The Outer Limits.
Do you know what actor wore that suit?
Yes, Corpse 31. So no, I don't. I don't, Dave. But there's a lot of great spacesuits available for people who want to buy them. I mean, there's you can always tell. I mean, the great thing about Hollywood spacesuits is that high budget movies really put care into the detail of the costumes they make. So I mean, Outland, this is not one of the hugely detailed ones, but certainly something like Armageddon or some of those other or suits we have from Cloverfield Paradox. Those are just gorgeous. So,
but are they functional is the question.
Well, we'll find out shortly when I go out in them, huh? And we'll see if I get COVID. But
I think Kushik normally needs to leave early.
Sure, go for it. Sure.
Yeah.
Let's have him go.
Okay, go for it.
What? Did somebody else?
Okay. Hi, Marc and Elaine.
Hi.
David and Dave, Christine, Adam, and everyone else. Great to see you guys. So I finished my final project.
Wow,
Oh,
great.
My Los Angeles City College.
Great.
Cool.
Congratulations.
After like almost 3 nights of 5 hours of sleep.
to say hi.
Okay, say hi. Say
Hi.
hi quickly.
There you go. Hi, cutie.
Hi.
Hi, cutie.
Hi.
And she
We're good. We're good. I didn't know you were.
No, be quiet.
I had no idea, Kushik, that you were a ventriloquist.
And she was the star in the film.
Wow.
Wow.
And she's
Adam,
just adorable. I mean,
Yes.
not just adorable, but she's just adorable.
I put the link in the chat.
That's great.
Everyone.
That's fun. Oh, cool.
Oh, you did. Okay, cool.
Very cool.
We will send emails to Table
Mhm.
with the link of the film.
Great.
And it was a film about 2 Santa Claus fighting over a child.
Wow.
They at the end they end up chasing each other super slow on electric wheelchairs
Huh.
when other people are passing by them.
Wow, that's really fun. Cool.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, right? But I think that's probably kind of the highlight of the film. The super slow
Yes,
chase.
that's
So
fun.
I finished it, and then today was the last date to submit. I submitted.
Great.
Feeling a bit relaxed now.
Good.
Since I've been acting for almost 6 years now,
Huh.
writing for maybe 3 years, and then from the beginning of this year, I started directing. Of course, my eventual goal in future may be to write, direct, and act. But that's not how my career will start, or jumpstart. I completely understand that. And from talking to different people, what I realized that they told me that no matter what you want to do later, initially you got to focus on one thing. Focus on one thing, and then get into the industry, make a name or something, and then you can do what you would like to do. So if there is one thing that I really extremely passionate about, that's writing. Now, I want to ask Marc, because you
Sure.
have been a writer for so long.
Yeah.
So if writing is my path, and the very first thing that I would like to do, get a job in the writing field, no matter how low it is. Okay.
Sure.
So at least I'm able to pay my bills,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can also keep writing. And if I'm in that circle, hopefully I will eventually make enough networking so I can get people to read my scripts. And if
Yes.
they're good, I will go forward. If they're not good, I don't deserve to go forward. I completely accept that.
Yeah.
How
Sure.
would I get a job? Or
It's
what kind of job is
it's an interesting question because like when you want to be a doctor, the career path is very clear. You go to medical school, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, okay, there's a path. With writers, there isn't. I mean, it's basically one is self-created. And so if one grows up in like a Hollywood family or whatever, then like J.J. Abrams, for instance, you know, that helps. I did not grow up in a Hollywood family, so I, you know, had to find my way in, and I did it through several ways. I wrote the book on the Twilight Zone, and my friend Michael Reeves got me into animation, and then I made the move to live action. So, so the question you're asking is a tricky one. Obviously, if you start to win awards at film festivals, that's going to help. Because then you've got some something that validates your skill. But beyond that, it's also tricky during the pandemic because networking is another way to start to meet people and know people. The good part is that they are very, very, very serious about diversity now, which means that if that gives you an advantage. Now, do you speak more than one language?
Yeah. I speak different languages.
That's great, because again, like someone like Netflix is looking to do productions all over the world, and so if one is speaks like various languages from India or whatever, that can be very meaningful. And so
what is the type of very basic job I'm looking at? Like if I just want to get into a studio or
well,
Netflix,
well, when you're first starting out, you might just be specializing in nouns or adjectives or whatever. Then you work your way up to full sentences. No, I'm joking. Yeah, no. There's so many different ways in. For instance,
internships
there's internships. There's the Writers Guild has internships. There's writers assistants. There's staff writers. They don't really have freelance writers much anymore in TV. In film,
but staff writer would be like you need good credits, right?
No, not at all. The best way to get a staff writing job is to enter the TV writing fellowships that the networks have, and they hire their entry-level writers from the winners of those contests. So that's the easiest way to do it. And writing features is a very different world. That's not nearly as reliable as writing for television.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
But some people write novels, and that gets them in. I mean, there's any number of different ways. But what you need to look at if you want a reliable livelihood is where you're writing something where they have an ongoing need of writers. So in other words, let's put it this way. If you make an original film or if you write an original novel, that's serving your need, but it's not serving their need. Whereas on the other hand, let's say you were writing for comic books, they have a need every month to put out an episode of an issue of Superman. So they need writers for Superman or whatever. Or if it's a TV show, there's a constant need of episodes. And so, so in TV, it would be entering those writing contests. That's really the best way to go.
In the writing contest.
Yes.
Okay.
In film, it would probably be directing shorts and then working your way up to an independent feature and going that way. The interesting things is like the Marvel movies, they aren't hiring big feature directors. They're hiring indie directors. And that's because they want directors who can handle the personality stuff. They'll be responsible for the visual effects and all that stuff. And so I actually met a director from India who had done Indian films, and he was, and they approached him to direct one of the Marvel films, and he actually turned them down because he wanted to have total autonomy. But he told me about that process of meeting with Kevin Feige.
They wanted a director from India to come to Hollywood and direct.
He was a major film guy in India.
In India.
Okay, he's
he was well established. But the point being that's how I know that Kevin Feige hires directors from the indie world, not from the studio world. And so that's really interesting. And
they do have people watching the net. So if you are creating shorts for the net that are effective, as a director and a writer, I mean, they've got people looking out for that stuff. They're not knocking on the door. They're knocking on your door.
But the main thing I'll say is don't think of it as one project or one script. It's the career. And so writing multiple scripts and writing and just being in the habit of writing well and that can help a lot. I mean, the main thing is to be very, very, very unstoppable, but also be charming, be collaborative. I mean, it's really right. Different writing jobs have different requirements, and if it's writing television, you have to be able to work with other writers. You have to be collaborative. But comedy and drama are divided into usually 2 departments. And so kind of choosing whether you want to write drama or write comedy is a good idea, because it helps you kind of like aim toward who you're going to need to impress. But
not doing both.
One
Right?
one can, and more often than not nowadays people do. But it's very different. Comedy is put together a very different way from drama. That just how the writing staffs work is very, very, very different. And
they have an attitude. We had one writer friend who told his manager he was a comedy writer and his agent that he was a drama writer.
Yes,
because they put people so much into those.
They
tracks.
pigeonhole people.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Like generally, people always prefer specialists.
Yes.
Nobody wants one person who does a lot of stuff. I mean,
well, they want people who can do the job that they need. You know, the job that yeah. I mean, it's so that's how it works. And
right. So maybe applying to a bunch of internships and writing contests that might open up some good opportunities for me.
Yes. That's what I would recommend. So
and definitely there are more jobs in the TV writing system, right?
Yes. And you can rise much more quickly. And the money is extremely good in television.
They have a better attitude toward writers in television. Their attitude toward writers in film is not.
Well, yeah, but like for instance, when I was working regularly in TV, like just to give you an example, it pays so well that like if there was a high shelf where I needed to reach something on a high shelf, I could just push a bale of money and step up on it, and I'd be able to reach up and get the salt or whatever I needed. And so it's really, really very, very nice. And so that's what I would suggest. I mean, the good part is when you work for the networks and the studios, the check clears. That's really nice.
That's the very important part.
Yeah.
Would you say I have a few friends who work in studios.
Yes.
If I get into a studio in no matter what capacity it is, like let's say a PA or something, like somebody who does some office jobs.
Yes.
I would still have a better shot when I'm going for the writer's room or something.
Not
than somebody coming from a...
No. The problem is that it's extremely hierarchical. So if you're a crew guy or an office guy or an IT guy, everybody's got a script under their arm. It's a cliche. And so they don't tend to see you. Like if you're a PA on set, they're not going to see you as a potential writer. Being a writer's assistant, yes. Many shows do promote from within, but it's much better to start as a writer. And then you don't have to fight your way. Then you don't have to fight.
So you got to be careful about before going what capacity you get into a studio.
I mean, it's not a bad thing to be on a studio lot. There's a lot of advantage, but it's not going to help you break in as a writer necessarily, unless you're incredibly lucky.
Special advantage. Right?
Yeah, unless you're very lucky and very bold. But again, it's one has to be careful. Anything else, Kushik?
That's all.
Okay, yay.
Great advice. I appreciate it.
Of course, you're very welcome, and thanks. So, Adam, another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. Our next question is another one from Hayes494.
Great.
Who says, loved your commentary on Capricorn 1.
Thank you.
Would you be interested in writing a remake if approached by a studio?
That's an interesting question. Yes, it would be. I mean, I'd make it better than that movie because, obviously it's got its flaws. I mean, that's a movie where it's very interesting. I don't believe in remaking great movies because if they're already great, you're kind of screwed. But remaking a movie that had possibilities that they really kind of missed, those are really good ones to remake. Because, like for instance, a great example is what Ron Moore did with Battlestar Galactica, when he did the reboot. I mean, so Capricorn 1, I think, could have been a much, 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 much better movie. And that'd be a lot of fun. Sure, that'd be a lot of fun. You bet. Cool. So let's see. I guess, Brian, you're the next one on my screen. So why don't you go for it?
Sure. Hi, Brian Hasek here, filmmaker, originally from St. Louis, went to USC Film School, and actually spent a lot of time in corporate as my foot in the door job. And it's good for connections, but it's not going to help you get a creative job.
Right.
Right now I've been just working on writing, helping others with writing, and getting my final script together for a short film that I want to shoot. as soon as people are allowed to go outside again.
Cool. So
And, yeah, I actually had a friend also from Fox and Disney where I worked who had written a treatment, and he had some questions, and he did me a favor, so he might be showing up this meeting. I
Sure.
sent him the invite, but
that's fine.
so if you see another Brian, that's
Yeah. And just to be clear, again, I strongly believe in creating the evidence for what you want to do. So you make the film you want to see, you make the TV show you want to see. I mean, it's like what we're doing with Space Command. And the fact that now one can reach an audience and get millions of fans without a studio, without a network, I think is a very powerful tool, because so many people write scripts and they're just sitting in a drawer. And the competition is very, very fierce, and it isn't that necessarily the other writers are any good, but if you here's the thing, reading a script for most people is tedious, whereas watching a short film or watching a movie, if it's halfway entertaining, it's a lot easier, and you'll know within a minute or two if the thing's working. And so that's why I think making stuff is a good idea, and also all those people who think they want to sell an idea to the movies or sell an outline to the movies, that's lazy, first of all. And secondly, that's not going to bring you the good money. What brings you the good money, of course, is the script or the finished film, because that's the thing, the script is a blueprint. The finished film is the finished film, And it's very interesting. When I wrote the book with Guillermo del Toro, Guillermo told me, he said, I became a director so that I could get my scripts made. He said, I'm principally a writer. And at that point, he said, I've only directed 8 films and I've written 20 screenplays, so that was very interesting. I don't know if he'd say that now, but he did say it when we were collaborating. And, but a lot of writer directors, and of course I became a writer, director, producer, again, to protect the writing, to get it made and get it made the way I wanted it to be. I'm not by nature a director, as Elaine could attest, and Dave and David Bartlett, and but see, part of it is that I know that I'm strong as a writer, and I'm okay-ish as a director. Elaine's a much better director than I am, but
I ain't going there.
Right, really, and
at least with you in the room.
Not until after Christmas, at least. And by the way, I thought of a perfect title for a Christmas movie, which is A Very Christmas Hanukkah. So, but and by the way, for those who want to see perhaps one of the worst ideas ever, there's actually a movie that you can watch now on video on demand with Mel Gibson playing Santa Claus in an action movie. And that is the weirdest thing imaginable. I think it's called Fat Man.
Man.
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah. And I couldn't believe it. When I saw the trailer, I thought, oh, this is a satire. Nope. And so okay. So but yeah, so that's but I'm a writer who also directs and produces, but I recognize what I do well and what I don't, and I shore myself up with other people who know what they're doing. So, that's the answer. So, Brian, is there anything else you need?
No, I will be asking for help as the short film comes along. But yeah,
Great.
Like you said, that's besides as something to show. To me, it's something I came here to make movies, not work in a writer's room or work on scripts or work on this part of a movie. It's like, I just want to make something.
Yes.
Great.
So,
And
even if it leads to no jobs, it'll be.
That's okay. Something to think about when you're conceiving of a project is what will get people's attention. What's going to get people noticing this? What's going to get them talking about it? I was just reading about a first-time director who's sort of taking the world by storm right now, and his first feature is called Shithouse. And because he deliberately wanted a title that would get attention, and he stars in it, directed it, wrote it, produced it, edited it, and one of the Duplass brothers was a mentor to him. He reached out to him and with a short he'd done, and I think it was Marc Duplass, whichever, there's 2 of them, responded and mentored him through making it into a feature. And it's about him, this college student who's trying to fit in, and it's highly autobiographical, and it's worked. It won this big festival and on he goes, so there
Yeah,
are,
my thing's sci-fi, so I just want to make it look really cool. I don't care how short it is,
right.
as long as it looks awesome. And yeah, something in the plot has to click with people so that they show their friends. But
Yes.
I really want it to be just something that looks great.
Yeah. Well, good.
Well, but the thing that will really hook somebody if you have a strong emotional resonance
Yes.
beneath.
Yes.
What's the emotional hook? Because there's so many really good visual effects guys now, but you still forget.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree with Elaine entirely.
Yeah, I have the hook. It's just one of those things that's going to become a trope soon because it's like the whole thing about the humans versus the robots as they become more and more in control of our lives.
Sure.
Some of these things have been done before, but
But what is your take a few minutes and talk to people and think it through yourself. Yes, that's been done a lot, that specific thing, humans and robots. But if you've come upon something that is really personal and very specific about that dynamic, the way that it's working in your film, where it speaks to a greater truth in the terms of how we are, fill in the blank, how we are swept away by the more powerful, how we diminish ourselves, how we come into competition without understanding, or, there's so many different takes that can say, it doesn't matter if it's robots, it's how we are in the world that is whirling around us. And if you make that really personal and really fresh, where it doesn't matter that they're robots, what matters is who you are. Well, that's when you've got a hook.
Well,
the basic, I'll just throw it out there because
sure.
I have it. The basic thing is this: the guy or girl that is walking on the grass. It's this little patch of grass in a huge, otherwise, constructed world, and because the laws are all written in, because the drones are all basically police officers, it basically ends up executing this person for walking on the grass. It's like a little thing that should be what every human can do. I'm just going out for a walk, and
fun.
The program has taken it to an extreme.
Well, yeah, Ray Bradbury once wrote a story called The Pedestrian. He was walking alone at night in Cheviot Hills near his house, and a cop pulled him over and, was telling him he shouldn't be out at night walking. And he was so incensed by that that he wrote a story called The Pedestrian about a guy who goes out walking at night and the robot police car pulls up and arrests him and drives away with him. And that was pretty fun. So yeah, I mean, again, it's all about, the execution and do we care and the design stuff and all of that, but it sounds like fun.
Well, yeah, it does. And if we say, well, what's the alternative possibility? We don't just want, things are what is beyond you is all powerful and you're screwed,
Yes.
You want some sense beyond that, because I don't need to hear that the world's all powerful and I'm screwed.
Yes.
I'd like to have an insight on that dynamic.
So anything else?
There too, I'll figure out a way to fit it in without hitting over the head.
Yeah, no, but go for it. So anything else, Brian?
That's it for now.
Yay! Cheers, excellent. Okay. So do we have another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Yes, we've got a question from Scott Baker.
Great. Hi, Scott.
Who says, are there some Bollywood sci-fi movies you can recommend?
I'm sure there are some good Bollywood sci-fi movies, but I really haven't gotten into Bollywood particularly, so I don't know them. But that's certainly, if you went on Google, I'm sure you could find them. I've just recently started getting into sort of the Eastern Bloc science fiction a little more. I love Tarkovsky's Solaris, and there's some other East German science fiction films that were good, and so forth. So, but I haven't really gotten into Bollywood stuff yet, and so sorry about that. So let's see. So Nina, I guess you're next on my screen. If you want to go for it. Oh, 1 minute. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
I'm not. Hey.
We can.
Everybody.
We can hear you.
Can you? Can you see me?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Listen much if you can. So big.
Yeah.
It's just a flannel shirt. Did you guys have a good vacation?
Yes.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
It was very nice.
These guys were awesome last week.
Great.
They were super helpful and gave me a plethora of information about editing.
Good.
That I found and had to rewrite so I could understand it. And happy ending, guys. I found the original film. So Thank you all for putting up with that and all the great ideas. You guys gave me a lot to work with, and obviously sent out the good vibes.
Wow.
So we found the original work, so I can actually edit
great.
it like into something decent, which is good. So thank you, all three of you guys, everybody helped me last week. And that's about it. Just in the middle of editing, trying to create a demo reel and doing a voiceover class in Chicago I need to brush up anyway. It'll be a great way for me to meet people and just kind of create a community. I told the guys last week, I've been doing some open mics, which have been pretty fun.
Great. Wow.
So you guys have been kicking me in the butt, and I've been following through as well as possible, muddling my way through. That's about it. Nothing going on. Don't need anything from anybody, and that's about it. Judith is out meeting a dog.
Yes.
I don't know.
Hi, Judith. She's here today. Yes.
Oh, hi, Judith. Okay, so that's it. I don't have anything exceptional to talk about, except thank you all for last week, and we found the movie, so now I have no excuse but to put it together. Damn, I hate that.
Okay. Okay. Well, great. Yay. 3 cheers. So, Adam, another Mr. Sci-Fi question.
Let's go with another Scott Baker question.
Okay, sure.
Who says, I just streamed Tales from the Loop and Electric Dreams.
Yes.
Are you tempted to launch a streaming channel and or anthology series of your own as a revenue source for productions?
I'm currently working on a Rod Serling project that I want to do that I can't go into too much detail about at this point. But with Showrunners Network, it's a project I'm doing where I'm creating 6 major new shows with 6 of my friends who are major showrunners. And but I wouldn't have it be my own streaming channel. I would find like Amazon or Netflix to partner with if I can. But Mr. Sci-Fi, thank God, is my own channel that allows me to get millions of people watching my work. So that ain't bad. And so that's but no, anthologies are very, very difficult because each week it's different characters, different settings, different stories. That doesn't mean not to do them. It just means that they're harder because, like with Sliders or whatever, we have the back lot and we, each week we're in a different parallel Earth, but at least it was the same, lead characters. So, and the fun part in Sliders was that we could have our actors doubling. So whereas they might find playing their ongoing character a little bit limiting, they could play very wildly divergent versions of their character on other worlds that they would encounter. So that was great fun. So let's see. So I guess Jake, you're next on my screen.
Yes. Hi, Marc and Elaine. How are you?
Hey,
Well, good.
Hi.
Good to see you. I love that title, the Merry Christmas Hanukkah.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's see. Well, Marc, I think I told you, but so I finally signed the contract for my short story to get published.
Great.
By Dark Regions Press. It's going to be an anthology. Should be out maybe sometime early next year. So I know they're kind of obviously very behind with publication because of the shutdown.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's just that's a very exciting thing to just see. Just have something out there get published.
It is.
I'm really excited, and it's a horror anthology. So
it's great.
And I'm already working on a horror novella right now.
Great.
And let's see. I think because I'm working on that, and so I'm probably like about 75% of the way through it.
Cool.
And I'm kind of like thinking, like one for like obviously like who are the best people to like proofread it, give you notes. Obviously, they say like avoid family and friends.
Yes.
And then
there are people who do proofreading that are members of the table. So if one puts out an email, one can hire those people for not much money, particularly
but proofreading or just reading?
It depends on if you want notes on the material or just proofreading. Those are two different things, of course.
Okay. Well, I mean both is helpful. But,
yes.
And then like I don't know, like in terms of publishing it, like I mean obviously like getting published with Dark Regions Press, which specializes in sci-fi horror.
Sure.
Fantasy.
Great.
I built. That's a relationship to nurture.
Sure.
But in terms of like other publishing companies, like I've like some people have advised me, obviously, like go towards publishers that specialize in that genre. And also like I feel like I also would love to see it like adapted into a film. Like I could either write the screenplay of it. So like, I mean, I don't know like what the best course of action is depending on,
Here's what I would suggest. A number of things. First of all, when the pandemic is over, the best way to launch a career in science fiction, fantasy, or horror is to attend the Clarion Writers Workshop. It's launched many, many writers, including myself. The Clarion Writers Workshop. There is one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. And it's 6 weeks long, and each week a famous science fiction writer teaches you. And it's 25 students, and it's very intensive, and it's really great. Beyond that, going to the World Science Fiction Convention and going to the World Fantasy Convention, you'll meet all the major editors, all the major writers, and that's how people sell books and all sorts of stuff. It's really the way to do it. And a lot of science fiction conventions are media oriented, but the World Fantasy Convention and the World Science Fiction Convention are not. They're literature oriented, book oriented. And because what you do not want to do is be submitting material blind. In other words, if you're submitting a novel without the editors personally having met you, it'd be a miracle to sell anything. Also, you want to think of who has a career you'd like. Do you have a sense of that?
I mean, like I really love Jason Blum and his films, and and I like that he kind of always like has that independent film mindset, So like, in terms of like writing, I think that would be like that's just one person I can think of. But I know you've mentioned like in past, like, to like obviously make a list of the people you want to work with and then try to like find them, be in contact with them.
What's funny, I'm putting my science fiction books in alphabetical order right now, which is an interesting task. And I have these stickers that say, I got them from Amazon. They say signed by the author. You can't see it, I'm sure, but signed by the author. And as I go through, I see which books I have that are signed by the authors. And it's amazing how many of my heroes, when I was growing up reading books as a kid, how many of my heroes I actually ended up meeting and befriending. And that's enormously valuable because you can really learn a lot from them. Now, are you primarily wanting to be a film and TV writer or a book writer? What's your main priority?
Honestly, I feel like a film and TV writer.
Okay,
I mean,
sure.
I mean, I love books. I read tons of books. Like I read 8 novels last year. So it's like, I have like a love for the written word, and like Ray Bradbury is one of my favorite authors.
He's great.
So it's like,
I
definitely am very inspired by him. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of what I feel like it's just like right now I'm like in this kind of writing short stories, novels, maybe just to kind of flesh out my creativity.
If you want to be a film and TV writer, make sure that your stuff is getting shot. Move heaven and earth to make that happen, and make it happen well. Because there are a lot of film festivals now that are horror film festivals, and that can put you on the map, even if it's a short. So I would strongly urge you to do that, because when you said you read 8 novels last year, people who are really into books read 8 novels last week. Okay, just to put it in context. Book people, book editors, novelists, they love books, and I know a lot of these people, but I would go absolutely crazy if I were a full-time novelist. I have the skill to do it. I've written novels successfully, but it's not the life I want, and it's very isolated. But I have many friends where they don't want to write film and TV. They want to write books, and that's fine, like Kevin Anderson and Brandon Sanderson and so forth.
Well, you have to rehook your head a little bit, because in books you're the narrator, whereas
it's a different skill.
It's a very different skill. Where with minimal writing, you let the actor be part of the narration.
Yes.
And you think of how to say it without being able to actually describe it, without the subtext. You create subtext without writing the subtext.
But go ahead.
well, it's just a very different headset. You have to learn different skills.
Well, the key difference is that when you're writing prose, the book, the novel, or the novella, or the short story, that is the finished art form. Whereas when you're writing scripts, it isn't. The script is the blueprint. The finished art form is the finished film, okay, or TV episode. And so unless you're willing to do the heavy lifting of getting that thing made, you're not doing the whole job, you know. So that's part of it. That's why, again, and all of the writers I know in TV and film, if they want to have control over the work, they become, in TV, you become a writer producer. In film, you become a writer director.
It's not for power's sake. It's
no,
if you
not at
write
all.
something that you really care about, then you see what somebody else did to it,
Yeah.
and you say, maybe I can direct as well as they can.
But it was very interesting because Ray, you know, I was friends with Ray for over a decade, and he was a very good friend, and Ray Bradbury, and he by nature was a novelist, and it's very interesting because he wrote Moby Dick for John Huston in 1953. He went to Ireland to do that, and afterwards, because the movie was successful, he got a lot of offers to write movies, and he said, I turned them all down. And I said, why? And he said, because I wanted to be famous, I wanted to be known, and no one knew who screenwriters were. And so that was very, very interesting. And Ray loved film and TV and radio and comics. I mean, he was really, anyone who thinks because of Fahrenheit 451 that he hated television is totally mistaken. He you know, and so he wrote in all of those media, or had his work adapted in those media, but he was primarily he was, more than anything, he was a short story writer. You know, novels it was difficult for him to sustain over a novel. Fahrenheit 451 is one of the rare instances of that, but he knew who he was, and it's very important to know who you are, because it helps save on a lot of wear and tear. So anything else, Jake?
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's all helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. 3 cheers. Yay. So, Adam, another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, we have a follow-up question from
Sure.
Marc Lungo.
Yay. Hi, Mark. I have to return your call.
From the Capricorn 1 question.
Of course. Yes. Well, I would have to write Capricorn 2, I guess, but go ahead.
Right. But the question is, can you think of any other promising but disappointing films that you could improve with a rewrite?
That's an interesting question. Soylent Green might be one. You know, gosh, you know, if I went through my books, I would find a lot of books. There's a wonderful story by Walter M. Miller. It's a short story about a parasitic alien invasion that changes people, and it's really an interesting short story, and that would make a really good adaptation. But in terms of movies, gosh, I would just have to think about it for a little while. You know, there's many people who've tried to do new versions of Forbidden Planet that never got produced, and you know, but I wouldn't take that on. I mean, I think it's a wonderful film as it is. I wouldn't mind doing a TV series derived from that movie, but you know, I'll give it some thought. That'd be a fun Mr. Sci-Fi to do, sort of, you know, movies and TV shows I'd like to remake and redo. I mean, there's ones I wouldn't touch. I would never try to remake The Prisoner, for instance. I know they tried that, and boy, that failed. And you know, and Quatermass is very interesting, but again, that was Nigel Neal's property. You know, so yeah, I'll give it some thought. That's fun. But okay, so Adam, why don't we do your turn? You know, since you're up there in your Christmas regalia.
Sure, why not? Hi everyone, Adam Sartain here, actor, voice actor, and musician, tuba player, and I'm an associate producer on Space Command.
Yay!
And I have had a roller coaster of a week.
Wow.
Starting with a big downer, a big bummer. Apparently, I don't have the internet bandwidth to do Jingle Ring, so
that sucks.
I got bounced from that.
Shit.
So that was a big bummer.
Well,
and I nothing against them. They're a wonderful company. I still believe in them, but it's just, you know, it takes up a lot of. You need to have high speed so that Santa isn't like breaking up all the time. You know, you gotta have. And I just don't have that. In the way,
well, what would you
situation?
What would you need? What would you need?
I would need something other than ATT-Uverse for my internet service.
Well, call me later. Let's talk about it. Let's see if we can come up with anything. Obviously.
Well, the issue is the internet service is under my roommate's name.
Oh Jesus. Yeah.
So it would be much more, and he's out of town, so it would be much more complicated to make any changes.
Yeah. Well, but the other thing is, it's funny when you said, you don't want Santa Claus breaking up all the time. I was thinking like, you don't want a video of Santa going, that fucking Mrs. Claus. She wants all the elves, and she's gonna leave me with a reindeer.
Those friggin' elves.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, hi, kid.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. But
speaking of Santa, I was one of the two Santas in Kushik's Don't Be Naughty Santa short.
That's funny.
It's a lot of fun.
And you were actually very good in that.
That's great.
I liked your reactions and all. So,
Thank you. I appreciate it. And then also earlier today, I got to do I won't say it was my actual dream, because I'd be making much more money in that, but it was a glimpse at my dream, which is I spent 2 hours in a recording studio doing animation voices, and it was just absolutely delightful. I loved it. It was so fun. Once again, last year around this time, I did similar voices for a pilot for an animated cartoon show, and the creator is trying to redo it, so to speak. And he couldn't get back the female actresses, so I ended up doing a lot of the female roles. Including little girls, and it was interesting, to say the least. I found I have a much larger range than even I knew.
It's great.
Would you like to do a little sample of those little girl voices to see how many of us are the people on Mr. Sci-Fi you can frighten?
Well, I don't know. I was kind of gonna do something like this.
All right, we'll get back to
Yeah.
All right, we'll get back to you with cookies.
Yeah. That sounds like a voice that you would use in It Chapter 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's good in a pinch.
Yeah.
That was very good in a pinch.
Yeah. But no, that's great. So anything else, Adam, for now?
Tomorrow, I'm going to be interviewed as Santa.
Wow.
On a local morning show, TV morning show in Sacramento.
Wow.
Virtually, of course. And to promote, I'm going to be doing Santa virtual visits for a community theater as a fundraiser.
That's great.
So I still get to do virtual visits. It's just not through Jingle Ring.
Yeah.
And for lots of money through Jingle Ring.
Yes.
This is a volunteer thing. But I'm going to be interviewed, so that's going to be fun. Yeah,
well, that's good. And again, the main thing is with everything to say, okay, how does this advance me toward where I want to go? And because that then kind of, because there's always going to be ups and downs and difficulties and so forth. But but that's to be expected. So anything else for now?
No, that's it for now.
Okay, yay, Adam features. And is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Let's go to.
Uh-oh, look out.
I lost it.
And that was going to be the good one.
I know, right?
Yes.
Here we go. Oh, no, that was okay. That was that one.
Yeah.
So now,
he's looking for it.
Yeah, sorry, I had.
No, it's okay.
I really did.
It's okay. The one thing I should mention while you're looking for it is when we were talking about science fiction short stories. Science fiction is one of the few genres where short stories can still put someone on the map. And it's it used to be in mainstream literature that it could. That's not really the case anymore. That was the case back, when people were reading the Saturday Evening Post and Collier's and so forth. So, but go ahead. Did you find the question?
Yes.
Okay.
And I do want to give a shout out to Kenneth Crickmore, who's a new viewer.
Great.
On and I think a new Mr. Sci-Fi viewer as well.
Yay!
So
Welcome
to our live stream.
Yes.
And our question is from Scott Baker, who asks, if character is defined as what you do when you think no one else is watching you, what becomes of character when you know for certain you are always being watched?
That's interesting. It's been explored as a subject in many, many films and TV shows and books. The notion of what happens when you're under constant surveillance. We, of course, all of us now are. And so the interesting thing is one has a choice when it comes to privacy. One can either try and find it in our modern world, which is very, very difficult, or one can just assume one is always being watched and go from that assumption, you know. And but it's definitely an interesting theme, God knows. And you know, there was the Truman Show. There have been many, many explorations of this, and 1984, of course, deals with that too. So, yep. So let's see, who have we?
Smiley.
Judith Smiley. Yes, Judith, it's your turn. Go for it.
Hi, Judith.
Yay, Judith. Can you unmute? We'll see. She's getting it. She's getting it. Uh-oh. No, we can't hear you. So you need to unmute. Well, there you go. There you go. Yeah, you got it. You got it.
You know, technology or not us.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, when you get a chance, could you get me Larry Kay's number? I want to see how I can best manipulate through the swamps of the shelters.
I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say. Oh, Dave has it.
Dave has it.
I thought you were going to say. Oh, go ahead, please.
My main thrust for this week has been to drive Nina crazy,
Huh.
and I do it so well.
Uh-huh.
Every 10 minutes, should I do this dog? Should I do that dog? What should I do with that dog? What should I do with that dog? I'm driving her nuts. I'm sorry, Nina. But I really need to find a dog. It's so empty in here.
Sure.
I've got some leads, but everything is so expensive.
Well, has
Elaine,
Elaine? Yeah.
For a golden doodle on Craigslist, they charged $5,500. It's a fucking mutt.
Yeah.
I mean, please, come on.
Well,
get over yourself.
Did Elaine tell you about her story about driving with her sister, where the dog story about driving with her sister? Years ago, before I knew Elaine, she was driving out in the middle of nowhere at night, was it? With her sister, and she saw this poor stray dog, this lost dog. And so they pulled over and they were trying to coax the little dog into the car because it was this poor little lost dog. And it was like looking at them, and it was kind of, you know, and you were getting nearer and nearer to it. And
we said, come on in. And then suddenly it kind of started and ran. And then we saw that it was running in a very odd lope.
Yes.
And as it turned out, we were trying to get a coyote
into our car.
Yeah. That happened to me when I was driving over from Hollywood here. I saw a little puppy, and I got out and I went, "Here, puppy, puppy," and a voice behind me said, "Hey, New York, that's a coyote, and his mother's right behind you."
Yeah.
I know. I'm from New York. Anyway,
yes.
I'm trying to find a dog, but first of all, I want to shout out to Adam, because he introduced me to Dungeons and Dragons, which we played last week, and that was so much fun. It was really fun. And thank you, Elaine and Mark, for helping me find a dog.
Sure.
I have the names. If I find a girl, it's going to be Pyewacket Elaine.
Okay.
And if it's a boy, it's going to be called Zicky.
Okay.
Or Zikri.
That's fine.
Anyway,
Sure.
I haven't been doing much. My mind is starting to percolate again.
Good.
But I've been so focused on Nina said you should be that focused on your career as far as being focused on getting a dog. But, you know, it's like incredible. The shelters have been completely decimated. The only thing that's there is older dogs. Now, Burbank has some nice 2-year-olds, but you can't get in to see them. You can only go in for one specific dog. You have to make an appointment.
Sure. But of course, Okay.
The dogs hate wearing masks.
Yes.
Judith, Larry Kay's contact information is in the chat.
It's in the chat. Okay.
Okay,
thanks.
great. Terrific.
Thanks.
Terrific. So,
because maybe he can help me negotiate and figure out if I want a 2-year-old dog. I don't really. I want a puppy.
Well, and then Saturday you're going with Elaine to the dog
thing.
thing.
Are you going to the dog thing?
Yeah, it's just right up on. It's just right up on Ventura. I have to go there anyway because I'm buying somebody a Christmas present.
Great.
I wonder who that is. And so, I mean, I'll get it done. I've given myself another to the end of the month.
Okay, great.
Okay. After that, I have to start putting my head down and working. Now, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
My agent wants me to get my demo done.
Okay.
I'm a little nervous about shooting because of COVID. I'm very high up on the danger scale.
Yes.
Do you think it would be okay to do it via Zoom or not?
I think that you have to prioritize your health first, because it's very hard to get work as an actor when you're dead. So, so really,
I heard that.
yeah, yeah,
It really, I heard that.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if many actors have gotten hired that way.
Because of my immune system and because my age, I'm like, I've already gotten notifications that 2 people from Toronto and 2 from New York.
Does he want? Is it an acting reel? Is that what he wants?
Yeah. Do you think a Zoom or should I wait?
I think what we should do is Dave should just pull together that scene from Forgiveness, the Space Command scene. You're perfectly good in that scene, very solid, and I would just send him that and say, here, use this for now until the pandemic's over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have two scripts, which Dave Bartlett is going to direct. I'd love to shoot it. I don't know who's going to come into my house.
Well, I wouldn't do that. Don't take risks. Don't take risks. I mean, can one shoot on Zoom? Yes.
You did it.
Yeah, I did, but I wasn't auditioning for anything.
No, but I think it can.
One can. If it's a monologue, particularly if it's a monologue, or if you're in a scene with someone else who's on the screen, but that can't be your only sample. So that's where the thing with Dave from Space Command will work.
We did it. It was very specific how to set the lights.
Yeah.
We were able to use our DP Massimiliano.
Yeah.
Who can walk them through it.
But the footage wasn't actually from Zoom. The footage in Ripple Effect wasn't actually from Zoom.
No, it wasn't.
You know what? Not too many people are shooting anyway.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just in the thing of expediency. I think I'm just gonna wait. I don't want to jeopardize myself.
No.
I do go to the grocery store.
Well, sure.
And I am going up to Ventura Boulevard.
Yeah.
But we can talk about, we can talk about how we shot a Ripple Effect, which was people were on their own, and they were shooting with their computer.
Yes, but the thing is, and Ripple Effect, by the way, is the 2-hour Space Command episode we did during the pandemic. Yeah, I'm just telling everyone else, so who doesn't know what we're talking about. But you can watch that on Mr. Sci-Fi. But it was utilizing the actors shooting their own scenes with their own cameras.
Well, it's just the first one is a comedy. It's just 2 people being fed.
Sure.
So she could do that. I mean.
Yeah.
Well, if you just
her brother is Alan Menken, I think he can set things up for her.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you have, it was like that. We had the father and daughter scene where they were in separate countries.
Yes.
Do I have to have it lit?
Yes.
It helps. Yes, and the sound has to be good.
You have to get someone in your house.
No, not at all.
No, you can get a DP to help you set up your own light. It
Actually,
doesn't have to be ornate.
Yeah. I mean, the way you can actually do it is someone can set up a camera outside your window, and you can, and they can shoot you through the window, and that protects you, so that's another way of doing it. There's a lot of clever ways to do it. David Bartlett has a whole bunch of ideas.
We could talk later.
It's
not imminent.
But I mean,
have to find a dog first.
But I think that this framing on you is perfect for your reel, where it's just like the top of your head and the glasses, it's, I think that's, and
I've been slumped over a computer. I was on the computer last night till 3:00 in the morning.
No, but I think, the cool thing is if your reel was just the top of your head and the glasses, the agent could say, well, what about the bottom half of your face? And you would say, well, that's going to cost you money.
Well,
nobody's going to pay for the bottom half of my face.
Well, people like Barbara Bragg, she's been doing a lot of self-tapes. They look
for
really
auditions.
Good for auditions.
Yeah.
You might talk to Barbara because she's got
and Angelique has too, Elaine.
I've been on Facebook with her, because her brother was. Now there's a perfect example. her whole family was sick with COVID.
Yes.
She had it too, but she's
Yes.
still been doing a lot of self-tapes, and so
But just-
has Angelique. So and they look good. They look good.
But just
And Angelique, by the way, I texted with her earlier today. She sends her regards to everybody and says she's been rehearsing a Christmas thing over Zoom remotely, but wants to join us one of these Thursdays. But
Sure.
meanwhile, sends her best and her love.
Okay, great.
Please send mine back. I'll call her tomorrow.
Yeah, and just tell her talk is cheap, you know.
And
So-
anybody else on this this call, Judith is looking for a puppy.
Yes.
So if you get wind of
Yes,
any
please.
puppy,
Anybody,
Yes.
I wanted a shelter originally.
It can-
They have a map
Yeah.
of there are no shelters in California.
No, nor should there be. And you know, but
Come on, they're the best dogs.
I think if you try to get a cat in a dog suit, that's going to be a lot easier.
I had a cat in a dog.
Coyote puppy.
Yeah.
puppy,
Well, actually,
No, did you see on Facebook they have fox puppies?
yes. Well, when we were in England, staying in Putney, we were actually coming back from dinner one night, and there was a fox, and it walked up to us, and we gave it some of our hamburger that was left over, and it really liked it. And you know, it's the first time I ever saw a fox in person. It was really nice, very pretty.
Beautiful.
So yeah. So anything else, Judith?
No, I just need to find the dog. I don't
Sure.
know why I'm so fixated, but it's so
No,
when you're used to having an animal.
Yes.
But look what you did. You got yours right away too, right? After
Yeah.
the squirrel.
Yeah.
Well-
Terrible
Hey,
decision.
Judith,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an email address. My assistant Gabby's good at that. She helped me find a couple
Okay.
of dogs that I might get.
That's right. I mean,
Okay.
Wow.
you can't know how much better I feel, although nobody can tell. There's currently a dog sleeping in my lap. And
Oh,
it just,
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
It helps.
And last week he was sleeping in mine.
yeah.
Yes.
You should
Yes.
lend Judith one of the terriers, one of the twins.
Yes. Yes. We should.
They'd be lost without each other. They really, I mean, they're little. They bark a lot, but their little button eyes are so cute. And when Rudy tilts his head, you just want to eat him up.
Yes. Yes. He's a cutie. So great. Well, 3 cheers. Yay.
By next week, hopefully by the new year, I'll have a dog and
Great.
I'll start working again.
Yay.
sometime.
Mazel tov.
I did get an idea for a sizzle reel for apocalyptic though while you were
Great. Okay.
Great.
I just do the first 5 pages, which are hilarious.
Terrific.
That's it. There's 5 people in it.
Okay.
Great.
Great. We love it. So, okay. So, Adam, is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question?
There is. We have a question from Ozzy.
Hi,
It
Ozzy.
says, are there any good beginning writing books or courses? Kind of a great writing for dummies course.
Right. If you depends on what kind of writing you want to do. If it's TV and film writing, that's very different from short stories and novels. There's the masterclass series where major writers teach you how they do what they do. And you can actually subscribe for a year and you get all of their classes. Scorsese has stuff, on and on. I mean, Neil Gaiman, David's has, yeah, Aaron Sorkin. Yeah, and they have a special 2-for-1 deal for Christmas right now. So you can get a membership for yourself and a free one that you can give as a gift to somebody. So that's pretty cool. And so that's probably good. Most books on screenwriting are pretty lousy because they're written by people who failed to be screenwriters. So I wouldn't recommend that. If you want to be a screenwriter, watch good movies and good TV shows and take them apart and figure out how the mechanism works. And that's what I did, and it worked. And but that's why I did the Twilight Zone Companion, really to study how that.
Stephen King.
Stephen King's book on writing is good, but it's mainly about him, like, you know, getting off his addictions to cocaine and alcohol. I mean, it's a very interesting book, but it's not going to teach you how to. It's not going to teach you how to write. Yeah, so that's some of it. And and let me think if there's anything else. And then I mentioned the Clarion Writers Workshop earlier. So anyone who wants to write science fiction and fantasy or horror in prose, that's the way to go, definitely. So okay, great. So let's see who's next. Mark. Oh, David. Okay, I was going to call on Mark, but yes. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, hi everyone. So first of all, there was lots of fun last week.
2
things to say about last week. One was I was asked about a number of silent films to recommend to watch, and I forgot one of the most important ones somehow. A movie called Sunrise.
Yes.
This is a film. The cards in between that explain what's happening or say what people are saying are called intertitles. And Sunrise was reached the goal of every silent filmmaker of the day to have an entire film with no intertitles.
Wow.
The studio got a little nervous, so they went back to put some in, which was against the filmmaker's goal, but they did do that. And the entire film was also shot interiors on sound stages, including an amazing sequence where the star of our film takes a pole boat ride up a river with the sun in the background, all shot on a sound stage, no visual effects. So that's cool. I also watched The Runaways because we were talking about the commitments and the Runaways, and I enjoyed watching that film. I'm not a Kristen Stewart fan, but I'm a major fan of oh my God, I'm such a big fan, I can't remember her name.
Well, there you go.
The other actress.
Yes, sure.
It's come to that.
Yes.
Anyone?
Dakota Fanning.
Dakota Fanning. Such a big fan of Dakota Fanning. So anyway, I watched it and I thought it was a good film. I enjoyed it. So I recommend that too. So I am David Bartlett. I am a filmmaker, a teacher, and a human rights activist. And I am producing quite a bit of Space Command these days.
Yay!
Yes, I have successfully, with a large team of a number of months, put together a studio. Marc came the other day. Actually, that was fun.
Yeah, it was.
And we've been building sets hand over fist. We've been taking sets from other shows like Cloverfield Paradox and repurposing them into sets for us. And that's been really great. I have tomorrow, well, let's see. I won't get us to Space Command yet, but I'm doing that with Space Command. I'm also the visual effects producer, the colorist, and do a bunch of other things. But my background started when I was 10. I made my first film when I was 10. I moved to LA in 1980 and started working right away. I picked up as my first advisor Robert Wise, who directed The Sound of Music and West Side Story and produced it and won 4 Oscars and was the editor of Citizen Kane. And for those of you that are Citizen Kane people and are interested in that vintage of Hollywood history, this new show that's out called Mank is very good. I think it's very good. I think I have a couple of issues, but overall I think it's an excellent film. And I would watch Gary Oldman read the phone book. Him and Claire Foy side by side would be an evening of fun for me. So anyway, I have, let's see here. I've worked on over 140 feature films. I've done a few TV programs, especially including Space Command. And I was in the studios doing studio features, doing sound design on films like Pulp Fiction and Speed and Total Recall and other films like that. And so then I decided I was going back into my roots and my independent films, and I've got over 65 film festival awards. So that was cool. In fact, it's very challenging to get editing awards because not a lot of festivals offer those awards. And when they do, the filmmakers don't always want to spring for the extra charge to put you in for them. So the one I got most recently was the Platinum Award, which is the highest award at Houston for film editing for a documentary short. So I was very happy about that.
Cool.
Let's see here. What else have we got? So I have a very, very short story and another story because I'm supposed to be telling a story every week that's different. So I've been challenging myself to do that. This one is especially probably going to be interesting to Marc, Marc Agoshevitz. So the alleged invention of the close-up, while we were talking about close-ups, someone that I did not witness working was D.W. Griffith, who made quite a few silent films. And the silent films at the time were shot basically with a wide shot, and they would play out the scene and cut to another scene of the same nature. So he wanted to move the camera in closer, and the investors were freaking out about this. They said, this is terrible. The people come in to see the film, paid to see the whole actor, and they're going to riot, and they're going to want their money back. He said, no, you have to think fast. He said, no. They're not going to want their money back. You can see more of the face of the actor and focus on that. You can charge extra. And they were like, oh, hey, that sounds good. So the close-up was saved from these suits.
That's good.
Yeah,
and David, and one thing I should mention is just a visual aid. This is the photoplay edition of Birth of a Nation. I just got that. And so that's pretty remarkable.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
That film was shot in Burbank.
Really?
Nothing but orange groves.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
everyone
knows that one.
It's a very problematical film, but
it is, but
yeah.
It's also the first American feature film and probably the second or third in the world.
It was hugely influential. hugely
The film
influential.
called Cabiria in Italy is the first feature film.
Yes.
technically, But
Yes. Yes.
Americans like to say it's Griffith, so I go with that.
But go ahead.
My story's about Milos Forman.
Oh.
I met Milos Forman once. Milos Forman directed. He directed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He directed Amadeus. He was an amazing, incredible director. He made a film called.
And for some reason, Hair.
Yes. Yes.
Hair's, I like Hair. Hair's a good movie.
No.
Anyway,
Cook.
Yeah.
he's great. He's a great director, no matter what the peanut gallery says. So he did a film called Valmont. Now, Valmont came out in the same year as two other films with the same concept. I'm sorry, two other projects with the same concept. One was Les Liaisons Dangereuses
Right.
on Broadway, and the other one was Dangerous Liaisons, a very big hit with
Glenn
John
Close.
Malkovich and Glenn Close.
Yeah.
And Uma Thurman in her first role
Mhm.
was literally breathtaking. I won't go into why. So he does Valmont. He knows no one's going to watch the film because they already saw these two other shows. And he came to the Motion Picture Academy to introduce his film, which I saw there.
Mm.
And they say, ladies and gentlemen, here's the director, Milos Forman. People went crazy. He steps up. This is all he says. He says, I saw a friend of mine on the street recently. And he said, I saw your film. And I said, oh, that was you. Thank you all for coming.
That's
That
good.
was all he said.
That's great.
Milos Forman.
That's
So,
funny.
Film finishes. It's a great film. I love that film. I come down to the lobby of the Motion Picture Academy. There's all the actors are coming down. The whole
Wow.
crew. Everybody's there.
Huh.
And he comes down, big applause, and it's crammed in the lobby with paparazzi, and they're all there. Uma Thurman's there, and Colin Firth is there, and they're all there. And Ed
Wow.
Manning. And there's Milos. And Milos has a line of people behind him, like that Woody Allen film, where everyone brings weird things to him and crazy things to him. Just like that.
Right.
And he's sitting there, and this woman comes up, this very buxom woman, and the little agent who's got this, scrunchy face, and he says, Milos, yeah, this is, Autumn. You have to meet Autumn. And then suddenly from nowhere, a photographer comes out and goes, kush, takes pictures, and then they leave. And another guy comes up, he's a very statuesque man, and his person comes with me and says, Milos, this is Vladimir Stostakovich, and he is from Russia, and he has a gift for you. And Milos, oh, okay. And he gives him this knife. It's like this big in a leather case.
Uh-huh.
He says he has this ceremonial knife. So Milos like, okay, takes the knife. Photographers again, kush. They leave. Another guy comes up and says, Milos, I was such a big fan of yours, and I wanted to meet you. I want to give you this penny, and I hope it brings you luck. So he gives him the penny. So this guy takes up. I'm waiting. My turn is the cliche of
Sure.
the filmmaker meeting the master.
Right.
So I step up and I say, Milos, yes, I'm a young filmmaker. I'm working on making my first film. And he says, you will. I said, okay, thank you. I didn't expect that. He said, but I really admire your film so much, and you've been such an inspiration to me. And he goes, thank you. And then we just stood there, nothing else to say. No one else was around.
Huh.
So I looked down at the knife, one hand, and the penny in the other hand. And he looks down like this, back and forth. And he goes like this. And I laughed, and then he gave me the penny.
Wow.
And I still have that penny.
Wow.
It's one of my favorite little moments of mine and time. So
That's
my Milos Forman story. One of a kind.
okay. Yay. 3
For
cheers.
the people on Mr. Sci-Fi, basically he just shrugged in confusion.
Yes.
Yeah, he shrugged his shoulders and looked around like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, when you're talking about Mank, which is a very good film, also on Netflix, there's a very good documentary on the making of Orson Welles' last film, The Other Side of the Wind, which was uncompleted for several decades after Welles' death, even though he'd completed photography on it. And Frank Marshall, who was, I think, essentially a PA on it, is now a huge movie producer. He was Spielberg's partner for a long time, and he decided that he was going to get it finished, and he did. But the documentary on how Welles had to struggle to get that film made is very, very interesting. So I recommend it.
Oh, and if anybody turns on Mank, both David Bartlett and we had the same reaction. At first, we were getting rather.
It's a little slow to get going.
It feels a little forced.
But then it gets going.
But then as
really
it gets
well.
going, then it's worth it. But the opening,
Right.
the
So
opening
don't.
few scenes
Yeah.
are
So don't bail on it in the first 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's a little like old Hollywood, the musical. At
Yeah.
first. And it's
Yeah.
Okay, if I see one more synchronized grip go by with the lamp, I'm going to scream. But
Yeah.
it does settle in, and it's okay. It's David Fincher, who's so good. But he
Yeah.
just went a little stylized for me, but that's just my personal. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree, except it shouldn't be taken as gospel. There's a lot of controversy about it,
Yeah.
whether it's fact or fiction.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Cool.
um,
Anything
something
else?
sponsored by the Writers Guild.
Yeah. Anything else, David?
Yeah, I have to do the Space Command and the table email.
Okay,
So,
sure.
Space Command now has sets being built, as I said. So guess what? We need help. We have a little money to pay people too.
Yay.
How about that? So you want to paint, and even if you don't want to paint, I need the help. Tomorrow, especially Monday, Tuesday, these are the painting times. I hope you like the hue black, because there's going to be a lot of black paint. And we're going to paint these cave walls that we just finished, brand new, 6 of. Now we have 18 cave walls, which will populate this set like crazy. And great big arch opening that I was thinking of showing a picture, but I'm going to wait.
No.
And we'll show it maybe when it's finished. How's that sound, Marc?
Cool. Sounds great.
Okay, so if you want to come down and help tomorrow and get paid, my email will be on this guy here, this chat. In fact, if Adam can put that up now, that would be awesome. And if you have my number, you can also call me or whatever. Plenty of people have it. I don't want to give that out in public here, but the email, no problem. So again, Pica Rivera, be there or be square.
Cool.
So now we have the table email. If you want to get on the table email, or if you're having problems with the table email, you can let me know and I will help you. I don't know if we have any brand new people here tonight, but sometimes that happens and glitches occur. So I can help you out with that. So again, you can email me at my email and I will help you out getting the table email all set up and hooked up.
Cool.
Now, I also have an ability, if it's still possible, I have an ability to reach Stuart about those first 10 pages.
Great.
So if you guys want to have your first 10 pages of the script read for free and get notes from a world-class script analyst who did, among other things, one of my favorite go-to films just to pop in if I just want to like chill and cleanse my palate is Michael Clayton. I think it's an excellent film and it's always entertaining to me. George Clooney at his best.
Yeah.
And Will Swenson is just the last thing they have together. No spoilers here, but I'll tell you, it's worth the price of admission.
Great.
So there you go. That's it for me.
Yay! 3 cheers. So Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, we have a question from Spacefaring Civilization.
Great.
Who asks, and this is great because we were just talking about like firsts in film. Was Metropolis the first feature-length sci-fi film made?
It was the first major one, yeah. It was. It's so interesting because the thing about Metropolis that's so wonderful, and if you've never seen it, now is the time. It was the first great science fiction movie. It was directed by Fritz Lang. It was a German film. It had a great robot in it. And for 80 years, about 45 minutes of that film was lost. And you could only watch a very truncated and eviscerated version. And then, like in the last 10 years, they found, after 80 years of it missing, they found a bootleg print that had the additional 45 minutes. And so now you can watch the film where the story makes sense. And it's just astonishing. It's an astonishing film. It was, and H.G. Wells hated it, and he made Things to Come, a great British science fiction movie in the 30s, as his response to that movie. And but it's really, really well worth watching. It's a great film. And so Metropolis. Yeah, go ahead.
Marc?
Yes.
The first one I've come up with is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in 1916, which was 105 minutes, which is technically a feature.
Yeah. Another real great find was Edison did a version of Frankenstein in something like 1905, and it was the first film version of Frankenstein. 1910, yeah.
Was that Dave Edison?
Yeah, it is. And so
that in 1910.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, but it was thought to be a lost film for many, many, many years, and they found a print of it. So now you can actually watch it on YouTube, which is really amazing. And another film,
As Edison intended.
yes, and another film that was that came very close to being a lost film, and thank God it wasn't. You mentioned Murnau with Sunrise. F.W. Murnau directed one of the greatest vampire films of all time. It was called Nosferatu, but it was actually a ripoff of Dracula. And Bram Stoker's widow sued and won, and she insisted that all the existing prints of Nosferatu be destroyed. And so for many years, it was impossible to see a print of Nosferatu. And my friend Doug Hayes, who directed Twilight Zone, told me that when he was a young man, there was a notice that it was going to be shown in someone's backyard on their garage wall because it was such a bootleg and it was such a it wasn't supposed to exist. And he actually went and saw it, and he was so blown away by it. And now, of course, again, you can get Blu-rays of it, etc. But it's a great, great, great
What
film.
about the French filmmaker?
Well, Méliès, of course.
The Frankenstein we're talking about is 16 minutes long, so
Yes.
it's not a feature.
No, and then there's a Trip to the Moon by Georges Méliès, which again is not quite feature length, but it's again a great film and well worth watching. And they have a hand-colored version of it that they recently unearthed, and it's just gorgeous, just stunning. So
Trip to the Moon is technically the first film.
What is? I'm sorry.
Trip to the Moon is technically the first film of any film.
You mean you don't mean of any film? Because you mean because the Lumières were doing non-science fiction films, prior to that, 1895, and Méliès was so impressed by that technology because he was a stage magician, and that he asked the Lumières if he could buy their equipment, and they said no, and so basically he hunted down like bootleg equipment so he could start making his films in 1896, and at first they were just kind of basically magic tricks on film because he saw that you could do all sorts of stuff on film that you couldn't do in real life. And then he started becoming more and more telling stories, and really a remarkable guy. And his story is really presented extremely well in the movie Hugo, which Scorsese directed in 3D. So it's definitely worth checking out. So
now, years ago, they were copyright films by doing paper prints of them,
yes,
long strips of photographic paper.
Yeah.
What happened to all of those prints? I mean, obviously they didn't do everything.
They've been re-photographing those prints frame by frame from the Library of Congress records. But again, it was only very early that those were copyrighted that way. And then eventually I think they just said, we can copyright it through other means. But there's still a lot. Most of the silent films are lost one way or another. Theda Bare's Cleopatra is missing. London After Midnight with Lon Chaney is missing. But
except the Greed is missing.
Yeah, well, that's one of the great tragedies, as is Amberson's, Magnificent Amberson's. Greed. Eric von Stroheim was one of the great directors of silent film, and he wanted to adapt an entire novel. And it was a novel called McTeague by Frank Norris, naturalistic novel, and he directed a 5-hour version of the film. Now, if miniseries had existed at that time,
it's 8 hours.
It's 8 hours, yeah. But the point is, sadly, the studio burned the entire print, and there's only like an hour and a half or 2-hour version of it is still extant. But they actually published a book that reconstructed what the film would have been from stills, and it would have been an incredible film, but it doesn't exist. And Amberson's, again, they destroyed that film. It was Orson Welles' second film, and it's such a shame that it doesn't exist anymore in its original version. So anyway,
I just saw last year a print of Greed that had an additional 20 minutes found somewhere.
Wow.
In some attic or something.
That's amazing.
And they took the opportunity to restore the entire film, and it's shocking how transformative that is, and how amazing it is.
It's great. It's great. And by the way, for Lost Scenes, Elaine and I did a Lost Scene from Things to Come where we reenacted it, and Dave put in stills from that Lost Scene in Things to Come by H.G. Wells, so you can find that on Mr. Sci-Fi too. So okay, so Marc Gushwitz, let's have you do your wonderful Marc Gushwitz performance.
It's so interesting to sit here and listen to you guys talk about all these old movies. One of my weaknesses is the silent era.
Yeah.
I need to know more about that stuff. But I want to defend Fat Man because as long as you ignore the trailer and go in on its own terms, it's not a bad film.
Good.
It's not a great film because there's a lot of things in it that kind of go nowhere. Sam working for the government, it goes nowhere.
Yeah.
But if you like kind of silly action movies, I thought it was kind of fun.
Wow.
Whereas I also then, just so everybody knows where I stand, I thought Mank was boring, the whole thing. I just had a hard time getting through that one. So
yeah, well,
that's where I stand if you want to pay attention to my taste in movies.
Yes. Did you ever go to the silent movie theater?
No, I never had an opportunity. And the one time I wanted to go, they were showing some old Jim Henson stuff that wasn't silent, but it was
weird.
Lost stuff that was found.
Yeah, that's probably when it was Cinefamily by that point. Yeah.
And
I saw a lot of screenings there. They had these giant, beautiful black and white portraits of those days, lining the walls with lights on them, and a live organ that played as an intro and the background of the film. So it was
a great
fun. Yeah.
It was great. When I was young, in my 20s, early 20s, they were screening The Lost World, which was the film that Willis O'Brien did before King Kong. It had animated dinosaurs, stop motion dinosaurs, starred Wallace Beery as Professor Challenger. And so Michael Reeves and I went to see it. And the cool part about going to the silent movie theater at that point was, this is like in the maybe late 1970s, maybe 79. There'd be like people who would come to the theater and they'd be like, there's one guy, he was this old guy, ramrod straight with this aquiline, gorgeous profile. And you just knew that guy had been a silent movie star. And it was really, really cool. But anyway, I digress. So go ahead, Mark, please.
They had Gary Chussette's memorial there.
What? I'm sorry?
They had Gary Chussette's memorial.
Yes, they did. But his silent films are all lost now. So, but go ahead, please, Mark.
I've had some interesting silent movie experiences. I saw Metropolis
Yeah.
at the New Art with a live percussion band there,
Wow.
which was really interesting.
That's fun.
And I love the movie The Last Laugh. And so I don't know why I haven't seen more silent movies, because there are a lot out there that I love.
Yeah.
But listening to David last week makes me want to open up my library a little bit, especially right now when we're sitting at home.
Yes.
And I'm not necessarily liking the stuff that they're putting out on streaming.
Yes.
Maybe this is my opportunity to look into that a little bit more.
Yes. And also just one thing to mention, Mark, in that regard, just I'm sorry to interrupt, but for many, many, many years, one thing that enormously hampered silent films was they would show them on projectors and they were showing them at the wrong speed. They were too fast. Because sound speed is 24 frames and silent speed was around 16, 17. And so that's why fractured flickers and all these things, people thought that silent films were ludicrous, particularly the dramas, because they were moving too fast. And then when videotape technology took over, you could vary it and you could show them at the right speeds. And that was a revelation. And there's a great documentary called Hollywood that James Mason narrated that's about silent films. They were able to interview all of these great silent film stars before they died, Pola Negri and so forth, and Gloria Swanson and Lillian Gish, and that's a great series. It's on YouTube. I highly recommend it. But that was amazing to see these films in the right speed. So, but go ahead, please.
All right. So, for people who don't know me, my name's Mark. I'm an editor. It's been an incredibly slow month this month. In fact, Dave Bartlett, I may be able to help you on Monday or Tuesday. I just won't know until this weekend, so I'll let you know. I don't mind painting. But it's been incredibly slow, but I've been trying to utilize that time to do some of my own little projects, as well as help my wife out with redoing her website for her business. My short film has been locked. It's been sent off to sound and music with Earl Smith, who's a table member. I started adding some more effects to it that I've been teaching myself. My final shot is of these photos, and I decided I wanted to have cracks in the glass, so I taught myself how to put cracks on the glass. Wow. But now that I'm in color correction, I'm looking at the details. I'm starting to notice all the continuity flaws, because the last part of our film, which needed about 6 hours to film, was shot in about an hour and 45 minutes. But I'm also learning how you can hide some of those in color correction by darkening areas and maybe blurring out areas as well. So I'm kind of having fun with that. And I'm hoping to have it done by the end of the year, but I think Earl's going to need a little bit more time because he was really busy on a project of his own that he just finished. So, but we're finally seeing the finish line on the zombie film. And I'm real excited about that.
Yay!
Yeah. And then I'm also working on a website and /podcast all about movies that not enough people have seen, or maybe have had the wrong idea about. Like you asked me if they've seen this movie, and they're like, that looked terrible, and you just kind of look at it and go, but no, it was amazing. To kind of bring a more positive attitude towards films, because every time I turn on a podcast nowadays, or I turn on listen to people talk about movies, all they want to do is rip it apart. And there's a lot of reason to rip movies apart, but sometimes I'll listen to some of these, and I'll call them critics. When I do it, I kind of like to think of myself as maybe a movie reviewer, because the first job isn't to criticize. But I listen to some of these people, and it's like, do you even like movies? Why are you why are you doing this? And it's like 90% of the stuff that I turn on. And they'll nitpick for little tiny things that I'm just like, it's a movie.
Mhm.
You know, you're just supposed to sit back, relax, enjoy, and maybe learn something.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
my website podcast hopefully will not be about that. It'll be about celebrating the movies that we love that maybe people are not aware of. Or like I said, didn't think was going to be that hot. One day after people get to know me, I'm going to do a whole review of the movie Battleship, because I think that movie is so underrated and so underappreciated, because people just hear, oh, they made a movie about the game show Battleship, and they just don't want to see it.
Yeah.
And it's got a really good director. Did what I thought was a pretty good job with it.
Great.
So that's my goal for those are the two projects I'm working on that are kind of my own. And then we're now, since we see the end of the rainbow for the zombie movie, I'm starting to try and figure out how to put together my next thing in this crazy world we call coronavirus world. I've been doing some Santa Claus gigs. I'm surprised by some of the people as I do them, because some of them had to have been turned down because they actually think it's okay for kids to sit on Santa's lap right now.
Oh God.
And you're kind of like, no, I'm not going to do that gig. But there have been a couple that I've done where people, they keep you. I went and did a Santa gig, and they made sure everybody was 10 to 15 feet away from me, wear a mask. Santa wore a mask.
Jesus.
And it's been kind of fun. So I just need the editing work to start back up. But I have a feeling my editing work always slows down in December and picks back up in January.
Yeah.
So, I'm hoping that'll happen again. Meanwhile, utilize the time to maybe see some silent films and get my own projects a little bit further along.
Cool. Yay. 3 cheers. Great. And by the way, I recommend The Lost World, the silent version of The Lost World. They've restored it. They've added a lot more stuff that was lost. So
I didn't know they restored it. I saw that like 10 years ago at the
yes,
on the big screen. So that was one that sci-fi ones. I've seen a lot of sci-fi ones. It's the more non-sci-fi or horror ones, because I gravitate towards sci-fi and horror for some reason. I think it's my love of Stephen King when I read. I fell in love with reading through horror novels.
Yeah. Well, there's
as much as movies or anything, I too kind of gravitate towards that genre.
Well, there's two things I can mention about that. One is a film you reminded me that I actually want to see that I've never seen is Abel Gance's Napoleon, which is an astonishing film. It uses multiple projectors and three. It's like widescreen. It's amazing, and it was brought back to full glory by I think Francis Ford Coppola and Steven Spielberg.
Francis Ford Coppola did that, and his father
scored it.
Carmen Coppola did the score from the original score.
That's cool.
I got to see that at the Cinerama Dome when it was released in 70mm.
Yeah.
It's one of the great experiences. Most of the film is with a screen in the center, and then at the end it goes into 3 screens.
Wow.
The very last images in that area, there's a giant eagle that strips across all 3 screens.
Wow.
It's very moving. In fact, there's a really cool little publicity picture I have of Abel Gance getting his hand shaken by D.W. Griffith while he's tipping his hat to him.
That's fun.
And that's a lot of fun. But that's a magnificent film, and I did mention that last week. But that's definitely something. In fact, I think it was the first one I mentioned because people forget about that film, but it's really remarkable. And it's French Revolution. You can't lose with that, but it's just amazing the way the film is made.
And the other film I wanted to mention in that regard was the first film that Ray Bradbury ever saw was Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney. I think it was in 1925. And
one of the films that made me want to make films.
Well, the interesting thing is when I first saw it in black and white, the Phantom comes down this staircase dressed in a skull face, and he wasn't doing anything particularly dramatic. And I thought, God, he's really not milking that the way he could. And then recently they restored it with the 2-strip Technicolor. There's 2 scenes with 2-strip Technicolor, and that's one. And he's in this red costume, and it is just great. And so I highly recommend, if anyone's not seen it with that added, it's there you go, the Phantom of the Opera. I'll have to
check that out. I got one more thing because I've been trying to do this every week for everyone, and that's because now I'm doing this website that recommends movies. Last week I recommended my all-time favorite holiday movie, which is called Prancer. This week, I want to recommend 2 movies, which are my 2 favorite Christmas Carol movies, which I'm surprised by how few people have seen, or at least few people in the younger generation have seen. And to Dave Edison's surprise, one of them is not going to be Muppet's Christmas Carol, which is known as probably the most literal adaptation by the Dickens website or whatever they call it, one of the most literal. But I've always been fond of one that was made for TV with George C. Scott in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that one. I've always loved that one. And then, of course, if you can find a copy of Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, that one is just a lot of fun. And so those are my 2 recommendations this week.
Scrooged is okay.
Yeah.
What?
Scrooged. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, David. Yes. And
I didn't like Scrooge because I thought that Bill Murray was so effective as Scrooge that I didn't see him as somebody who would change that.
yes.
quickly.
And we love the Alistair Sim version. That's just so
Well, that's a
terrific.
great version too.
Yeah,
but
it
everybody
is.
sees that one.
Yeah.
I was trying to throw some out that people maybe haven't seen.
Yeah. So anything else, Mark?
Nope, that's it.
Yay! And one thing I wanted to show you, by the way, is I have some photo play back in the 20s and 30s. Often, if a movie was a big movie, they do what was called a photo play edition of the novel, and that would come out when the movie came out. So when they did The Lost World, which was written originally by Arthur Conan Doyle in 1912, when the movie of Lost World came out in I think 1925, they released the photo play edition with images from the film. Now, this, of course, film had astonishing stop motion dinosaurs, and by Willis O'Brien, who did King Kong later. So, of course, what would you have on the cover of that? Like, what would you have? A Tyrannosaurus or a Stegosaurus or pterodactyl? No, this is what they had on the cover. Can you see it? I'll show it over here too. So that's one of the most dull book covers. Now, fortunately, the frontispiece is what should have been on the cover, which is, a dinosaur fight. Okay. So, but that's pretty hilarious. So, okay, great. Is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
There is.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's great. Yes, I see it.
That's great.
Thanks.
So this one's from Gregory Krug.
Yes.
This is a good question.
Mhm.
Not counting Elaine and your current coworkers, who is the most impressive person you've ever worked with?
Wow. That's an interesting question. I've worked with so many Guillermo, I guess. I mean, I also wrote an introduction for the Martian Chronicles, and so working with Ray was terrific. But Guillermo is really brilliant, and his knowledge is extremely broad and interesting and individualistic. And his use of English, he taught himself English by watching television when he was a kid in Guadalajara, in Jalisco. And so, he has a very specific way of speaking, but a very good vocabulary. And, so working with him, writing that book with him was really, really fun and challenging, because I really had to be up on my game if we were going to be having a conversation. And I had to educate myself, because I knew a lot about a lot, obviously, but he was a big fan of the symbolist painters, and I didn't know about the symbolists, so I had to educate myself about those artists and certain writers, like, for instance, The King in Yellow, things like that. I just had to read those. But no, that was a lot of fun working with him. But I've worked with so many cool people. I mean, I can't, I mean, my God, working on Star Trek and Sliders and Babylon 5, and I mean, I've been blessed. And Space Command, the people we've been able to work with, the actors. I mean, working with James Hong, for God's sake, or, Mira Furlan or Bob Picardo or Doug Jones. I mean, it was such an honor. And but yeah, I'd say probably the most brilliant person I've worked with very collaboratively is Guillermo. And yeah, that was fun.
And you finally got to work with your childhood friend Bill Mumy.
Yes, but that wasn't the singular experience that some of the others
true.
were.
You did work with him on Babylon 5.
Yeah, but also, it's so great just getting to know people like George Clayton Johnson and Matheson, and on and on. Harlan Ellison was incredibly distinctive. Ted Sturgeon.
Just to meet George Clayton Johnson, as I did a couple of times, and I never mentioned to him that he was the reason that I didn't watch Star Trek, because as a real little kid, I saw the
the Man Trap
monster.
Yes,
freaked me out.
It did.
I never went back until it was in syndication.
It's a great creature. So great. So let's see. I guess Carol Field, you're next on the docket.
Hi, welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful time.
We did.
And David Bartlett was really great last week.
Yeah,
I learned a lot from you. It was really great.
Cool.
I'm real open for table reads. I was thinking that I did not stop acting. Life intervened. I don't need to bore you with it, but I would love to do a table read for anybody.
Cool.
Also, I went to AFM and it's just proven quite good.
Huh.
In the Canadian front, I don't know if Karen McKenna can hear me tonight, but thank you very much for verifying one of the people interested in my animated pilot. She said, yes, he's definitely worth the salt. She knows him in Montreal, which was nice.
Great.
And he sent my animated pilot off to a production company in Gay Paris. I know, it's totally weird.
It's fun.
So I will keep you posted. Whatever. I communicated with them today. Lovely people in Montreal. Lovely. That was fun. And someone in Toronto likes my novel. And he sent it to a production company. Mill Creek sent it to someplace else. Like, it's so, I mean, I don't know what that's about. It was amazing. I was talking to them today. It's like, I don't know. I'm an actress who happens to write. And it's like, that's what I get though. I feel like a child being nibbled on. I'm going to keep getting bites. Bites. But it's so much fun and it elevates you from any pandemic cabin feveritis. So, I mean, to think that I love writing this stuff and people are enjoying it too. And like, what a nice full circle. But I think that since it is Hanukkah and sundown was a half hour ago, I'd like to light the candles for all of us.
Sure. Dave.
Sing the bracha, and if you would like to sing it with me, feel free. There's the shamus candle about to light.
Great.
Number 1.
Sure.
So feel free to sing it with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav etzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Hanukkah.
Great. Yay. Thank you. And for those
for all of you,
great.
That you have a wonderful, beautiful Hanukkah season. And Hanukkah is translated in the Greek as to dedicate, I think.
Yes. And
so,
go ahead. Go ahead, Carol.
I dedicate this to all of us.
Thank you. And for those who may not know the Hanukkah traditions, Hanukkah is basically where it's a Jewish holiday where Santa comes and takes the presents away from the Jewish children and gives them to the Goyish children. So just to let you know, and it's a very, very hallowed tradition.
And Frankenstein Hanukkah. Fired. No good.
Yes, exactly.
According to the Rugrats, it's not pronounced Hanukkah. It's pronounced Hanukkah, and you have to spit when you say it.
Yes, it's Hanukkah.
Yeah, if you watch the Rugrats Hanukkah, that's how they say it.
Yes,
Which
yes.
puts out the candle.
Yes, exactly, yes. But I'll actually tell you something very interesting about that. When Elaine and I went to Rome some years ago, there's an arch, a triumphal arch, for whichever emperor conquered the Jews in Jerusalem. And it has a sculptural relief on the arch of the Roman soldiers bringing back all of the plunder, including a menorah. And that's...
It was Tiberius.
Yes, it was Tiberius. And but it was just so astonishing because I wouldn't have known that it was the Jews who were the conquered people in that triumphal arch unless I'd seen the menorah. And there it was. And that was rather chilling in its way. So
I have another story for you. When I went to see the Dead Sea Scrolls in Toronto, at that time I used to read Hebrew, and I found out how the Maccabees influenced the crucifixion, because the Maccabees overthrew the Greeks, and then the Greeks, because of Herod, who is like our modern Orange Day monster, infiltrated. And the priests were not Hebrew; they were Greek. And what Christ was trying to do was to overthrow the Greeks. And he did. The Orange Monster did the same thing that the Orange Monster is doing now.
Well, there you go. Yes.
Pretty repetitive. And Hanukkah was not mentioned in the Bible.
No.
The Bible was written before.
Yeah. No. I mean, Hanukkah just sucks. But yeah. So anything else, Carol?
There is an oblique reference to it in John.
Oh, wait.
There's an oblique reference to Hanukkah in the Gospel of John.
Yes.
Okay.
It's called the Festival of Lights.
Well, there you
And
go.
Jesus gave a sermon about how he's the light of the world and all that.
Huh.
That was
Wow.
during the festival of Hanukkah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And
great.
yeah, and for those of you who haven't heard of Jesus, he was a nice Jewish boy. So so Carol, anything else? Anything else you need?
No, I'm just very happy to see you all and to be with you, and I wish you good health.
Great.
And
Mazel, yeah, Mazel tov.
And
Yeah.
congratulations on all the movement. That's great.
I know it's so
That's
weird.
so
I'll keep you
exciting.
posted.
Okay, great.
Yay! 3 cheers. So another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam.
Yes. And thank you, Carol, for that, by the way. That was my first time ever seeing one of those ceremonies. I have a lot of Jewish friends, and I've been invited to Passovers and stuff like that.
Yes.
But I've never experienced like Hanukkah.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here at my house. Okay.
Okay.
Hanukkah is the holiday that all of us want to avoid and have Christmas instead.
There you go. But then you have Chinese food on Christmas Day.
In Hanukkah, just to say what you were saying, Judith, you get 8 presents, but they're shitty presents as opposed to like really great presents that you get. Okay. Well, I'll have to come over to your place. So okay. So Mr. Sci-Fi.
Question
Yes.
is from Arlen Wright.
Yes.
And they ask, when you write, do you ever get so involved with your characters that you actually love your heroes and hate your villains?
You try to create villains that you like as well, because you have to be inside all of your characters. For them to work, you have to be inside them. You have to be looking out through their eyes and feeling what they feel in their heart. So essentially, basically, you're playing all the roles in a way. But one thing that's very hard is where you know in the book something terrible is going to happen to one of your characters, and it's so hard to do that because you have such affection for them, and you know that you have to, because otherwise the story won't work. But that's hard. That's the hard part. And now of course in science fiction, when a character dies, you can always bring them back. You just save their nose and they get cloned or whatever. But it's but yeah, that is the hardest part, particularly in novels, because you spend so much more time with those characters, and it's much more intimate in a certain way. So okay, so let's see. And Dave, Dave has Hanukkah, yay. with tubes. Okay, that's interesting. So okay, great. So now we go to you, David Goldenholtz.
All right, you can hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So nothing too interesting. Last week I was talking about how I was doing some voiceover work. I was supposed to do some cooking stuff for my voiceover, but they changed it where instead of doing voiceover, I worked on, what's it called? Why can't I think of it now? I just had it in my mind, the Cyberpunk 2077. And I don't know right now if I got the part because it's a independent guy who's writing the book. But still up in the air. But besides that, I'm also, as always, still doing voiceover and always looking for voiceover work and doing sounds. Eventually going to move to LA, but right now because of COVID, it's kind of hard to go down there. But other than that, no, I don't need anything. Just coming here to say hi to everybody.
Okay. Well, great. Well, 3 cheers. Yay. Good to see you, David. So, Adam, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. We have a question from Wilhelm Sowers. And he says, United States Air Force is creating its own space command. How will you respond if USAF sent you a cease and desist letter demanding that you change your show's name?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because when we were doing the initial Kickstarter campaign, I wasn't aware that there was an Air Force Space Command until I got a call from them. And it's, please call us back, Mr. Zickery. So I called them, and I was assuming that they were going to give me a cease and desist, and I'd have to change the name. No, they said, we love what you're doing. Can we help you? And so we had a couple of visits to Vandenberg. We toured the Space Command Museum. We got to know a couple of the officers very, very well. And one of them actually ended up building one of our alien ship sets. So out of metal.
They were
and
good enough to come down and keep making really
oh
silly
yeah,
mistakes.
they were great. They were just
wonderful.
great. So
but remember, we were in Space Command. The Space Command is quite heroic.
Yeah,
Quite
I mean, we're
heroic
not
entity.
slamming them, absolutely. But I'm just so glad that Trump called his thing Space Force, because that was just a bullet that went right on by. It was like Space Command was not Trump's pet, so that was good. And but no, I'm so far so good. And again, the title isn't the main thing that it's about. I mean, that's just the title. And I'm just happy that we're making stories that have meaning and that I'm proud of. So let's see. So I guess Bonnie, you're next.
Hey, Bonnie.
So this has been a good week.
Yeah, good.
So I know the last few weeks I talked about the union election, and yay, I was reelected.
Yay! So great.
Like my 9th term coming up, 2-year term.
Well, that's great.
And so we do have. So I'll be a trustee and a convention delegate.
That's great. And yeah,
we have our first woman president of the local.
Yay!
Oh, wow.
Great.
Yay.
Well, practice. You should. There's a phrase.
Great. Yeah.
There's a phrase you should practice, Bonnie, which is the pension fund was just sitting there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But keep going, please.
Sure. Yeah. So there's that, and then there's this composers group that, it's several composers group, but one is we all got together over the last few months and we collaborated all. And tomorrow, the guy who started the group, 2 albums are being released on YouTube and Facebook and all over the place. So I could put those in the chat. There's one. They're calling the website Some of All Music. The 2 are Some of All Christmas. Let's see, Some of All Winter are instrumental holiday songs, and Some of All Christmas are vocals. With vocals. So all these people are composers, songwriters, singer-songwriters, musicians. So it's really cool.
Great.
And then let's see, Michael Lopez asked me about composing for his short film, and probably other things, but just
cool.
Somebody might be doing some ads for the company, so we'll see.
Cool.
Musical ads, musical themes with them. So I guess that's mostly what's happening now.
Oh, but congratulations, that's
great.
exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
great.
So cool.
Wow. Well, 3 cheers. Yay, Bonnie.
All right.
So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam? Oh, you have to unmute. There we go.
I'm looking. I still haven't found one.
Okay.
It's just a long, they're very good. Oh, here we go. Very lively chat, so that's good.
That's nice. I'm glad you guys are talking to each other.
Scott Baker asks, in his 1976 film, Heart of Glass, Werner Herzog notoriously hypnotized his actors to achieve emotional effect.
Jesus.
Have you heard of other films using this technique, and would you rather try it?
No and no. The whole point with actors is trust. They have to trust you, and you have to make the set a safe place for them to be vulnerable. I think hypnotism is a very bad idea, and that's not the direction I would want to ever go. So there you go.
Marc saves that for his crew.
I do. Well, you're so, you're so amusing when you think you're a chicken. So now we go.
But we need the eggs.
Yes, well, exactly. So Benjamin and Emily, you're up if you'd like. Okay. They're trying to. There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, there you
go
are.
for it. Oh, we still can't hear you. That's weird. Huh. Let's see. Technical challenges. Yeah, we're not getting it yet. Huh. That's funny. Okay.
How about now?
Yeah, now we can hear you. There you go. Yay.
Okay, I was saying we missed you last week. I really enjoyed David last week. I learned a lot coming from the music industry. What's the lady there named from Local 47? She was just on a few minutes.
Yeah, Bonnie. Yeah.
Well, Bonnie, because during the 70s, I was very busy recording in New York for Brunswick Records, and we did use a lot of the union guys there.
Huh.
And so tonight we'll have something to talk about. But mainly, things is recording. Not so much Emily's going to be the writer in this family. So what I'm producing is some older records. We'll go with Jackie Wilson and Brunswick Records. A lot of old stuff we're going to re-release.
Huh.
And I'll be working on any stuff with her when she's ready. Hopefully she'll let me do some music to her documentary. So I got to earn her respect to do that. Looking forward to that work with my kids. So Bonnie, you might remember that was a big record in New York one time. It was called "Do It Till You're Satisfied." That was one of the things that we did. It was a story about just what you did. Just enjoy yourself. You're supposed to be happy, so do it till you're satisfied.
Uh-huh.
Emily's going to be on now to tell you what she's doing.
So, wait, you would ask about Wikipedia, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I'm going to need somebody soon, Mark. I hadn't forgotten about this. When I'm ready to finish recording, I'm going to need somebody to do a real professional Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
That I couldn't do, so
right.
I'll be talking about that later down the road.
What I would suggest you do in that case, Benjamin, is when you're ready to reach out to Howard Benjamin, because he's so knowledgeable about your career and about the music business in general that I'm sure that he would be happy to help you with that.
I would love to. You know what happened? Howard asked me about Lloyd Price. He'd been trying to find Lloyd for years, and I was in that band that did Personality. I was the youngest pianist in that band.
Wow. And
they got together so that Howard was really through, and Lloyd was too. So we're looking forward to doing all that stuff. Yeah, I'm going to reach out to, in fact, I sent him an email a few days ago letting him know to get ready because I'm going to pick his brain.
Yeah, he'd definitely be the guy. And I'm sure he'd find it an honor to be able to help you with that. So, so anything else? Oh, go ahead, please.
I look forward to working with it.
Great. And Emily, how are you doing?
And sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, what I've been working on is over the summer I had a really severe case of writer's block, but now I'm working on a couple of articles that I plan to pitch. One of them is about how Black creativity and innovations have inspired other people. So I'm looking to pitch that to LA Times or something like that.
Great.
And then another one is on representation in Hollywood, because lately with streaming services like Netflix and different things, there's been a lot of backlash about representation of different demographics. Like last week, Netflix put out a series based on the late singer Selena, and a lot of people who had seen the series said like this was done in poor taste.
Wow. Uh-huh.
Wow.
So, but no, that's an interesting article. Absolutely. And, there's a lot of very interesting influences that people don't know about. So yeah, that sounds great. So anything you need?
Just, I guess like if you recommend if there's any recommendations for like where you think I should send my pitch to at all.
I think, boy, now is it going to focus specifically on film and TV, or what's the area?
It's just, entertainment mostly.
I would probably start with
like
maybe,
music and that sort of
I would say Emmy Magazine or the Writers Guild Magazine, or, even Rolling Stone might make sense. Basically think about where you'd like it to appear and start there. Because that's, for instance, the way I ended up being a commentator on Morning Edition on NPR was I just decided I wanted to do commentaries on NPR, and I reached out to them, and they liked what I had, and for 3 years I was a commentator on NPR.
But one thing you might want to look to in Film Independent, because they have documentary group. And the fact that you're very good with criticism and looking at, now that we're trying to jiggery-pokery in the rest of America, into the common culture, and the way that it's often being done either well or very poorly, about being the voice behind a documentary, putting that together about how to create accurate visions of our fellow Americans. And if you as a larger project, but documentaries are hellish and hard, but I'm glad that Film Independent does have documentary people there. And certainly there are several at the table. But if that was of any interest to you, it would reach a wider audience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because in 2016, after the boycott of the Oscars, a lot of things changed. Like the Academy, they changed.
Yes.
They changed a lot of their rules. Like Best Picture and the Emmy Awards, they've changed their rules just recently.
Yes.
That's great.
So yeah,
you still see a lot of floundering, don't you? People trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah, but but absolutely pursue that. It's well worth pursuing. Yeah. And so terrific, great. So anything else?
No, I think that kind of covers it. We'll keep you posted next time.
Keep you posted, yeah.
Okay, yay! 3 cheers. So now I guess we go to Mike and Jim, if Mike is there.
Wait, did you want another?
What? Mr. Sci-Fi question. Yes, Adam, is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question?
There is another question from Gregory Krug.
Hi, Greg.
Who says, "How do you rank The Invaders against other Twilight Zone episodes?"
It's a great episode. It was very, very challenging. Matheson wasn't happy with it. He felt it was way too slow. He told me that he put in a lot more incident. And the problem with that one is it's pretty obvious what the gag is. You can guess pretty early that those little guys are astronauts and she's a giant because she's not talking. And there's no reason for her not to talk except that something's funky. But still, it was very inventive. My friend Doug Hayes directed it. He designed those little Michelin tire men kind of guys because his idea was, since it was a planet with a giant, the gravity would be stronger, and so they would have to wear these pressure suits. And he patterned it after the Michelin tire man. And so he basically went into William Tuttle's studio at MGM. William Tuttle was the great makeup man. And together, the two of them, Doug said he got his hands in the clay and he was working on it. And so because the design was his, and he operated, they were finger puppets. And he said you could either work the feet, the legs, or you could put your fingers in the hands, and because they had a little ray gun that they could fire. And so that's why they stop walking when they fire the ray gun. And he said at the end, when you hear their voice for the first time, he did the voice, Doug did, because he said, since I was those little guys, I thought it should be my voice. And and he told me that he had one of those little guys on his living room table for many years, but the LA smog ate it away, which is what happens to foam rubber here in LA, particularly in years gone by. And so it rotted and he threw it out, which is really a shame. I would have taken it. But yeah, so that was really, really cool. So it's and Agnes Moorehead's great. And then Doug told me that the reason he cast Agnes Moorehead in it was she was very famous for doing a radio play that was called Sorry, Wrong Number, that was this tour de force where she just used her voice. And he thought it'd be very fun to then have another tour de force where she would not be able to speak. It would just be the acting and the emoting. And but when he sent her the script, he said, like most actors, she flipped through looking for the number of lines that she had. And so then afterwards, after she read it, she called Doug and she said, I got the script, but I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. And he then explained it to her, and she was game. But that's a fun episode. It's a very fun episode. So great. Okay, good. So now I guess it's Mike and Jim. If Mike is there, are you there, Mike?
Mike and Jim are here.
Great.
Unfortunately, you can't see me, but maybe that's a good thing. Dave Edison told me, well, you already know what you look like, so don't worry about it.
Yes.
My name is Mike Lopez. As you can probably pick up from a prior comment I made, I used to be a minister. I was a Baptist minister for about 8 years. But I married a Jew, and so I was probably one of the only Baptists that officiated over Jewish ceremonies.
Cool.
was kind of neat. I got to speak some Hebrew, say the prayers, bless the bread, and all that stuff. So that was kind of
good.
neat. Anyway,
So
and I raised my children to appreciate both cultures, both religions. So I tried to get my son to go to Israel so he could get his right of returns.
Yes.
But he never made it. So I kind of wished he had, but anyway. So I was also a cop for 14 years. So if any of y'all need some gear, equipment, advice, or anything like that has to do with police world, just look me up. I'll help you out. I did 14 years with LAPD. Did a little bit of everything, vice, narcotics, patrol. So I can help you out with that too.
Wow. Cool.
A little shout out to Elaine. I want to just tip my hat to her. She's a really, that's the nice thing about the table is you got people from all different ideas, but you come together.
Yes.
And I really appreciate that about her. So.
It's vital. Yeah.
That's why you married her, right, Marc?
Yeah. I met her when I was 20 and I said, you're not going anywhere. And, so we've been together for 44 years and married for 43. So, and every day I tell her, I said, you're the best part of every day, so it's, yeah.
Now, as far as me personally, a week from Friday, we start filming on my latest project.
Yay.
I call it You'll Be Okay. And it's based on a true story about a disgraced cop who helps a transgender woman regain her self-respect. I changed it a little because I wanted it to be unique. I didn't want it to be the same old kind of stories. So, but I've got a great cast. I've got everything going here. I'm just waiting now until next Friday next, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I'll be acting in it myself too.
Wow, that's great.
I was going to direct it, but someone told me, no, you should act in it. So I hired a director, and boy, this is going to be an exciting thing for me.
Oh, that's great.
Great.
The last few months have been really good for me. Me and Jim, we get along really well. He's like my dad to me. He's doing okay. He just had a doctor's appointment a couple of days ago, and he's only got one good eye, and he always tells me if he loses that eye, that's it for him. But doctors are working very well, and they've been able to keep his eye working. So at least he, I keep trying to get him to put on a pirate hat, but he won't do that. He won't do that. Other than that, things have been going really good. I'm really happy.
Great.
I feel good. And if any of y'all need any help with anything, let me know. I'm more than happy to work things out with you.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you.
And congratulations. That's exciting.
Yes. And it's funny, Mike, when you were saying that you raised your kids to understand both the Baptist and the Jewish traditions, I almost said that's why they're Buddhist now. So, so knowing what kids are like. So, but it's great to hear your voice, and please give Jim our very, very best.
Remember Bruce, Joel Rubens.
Oh yeah, the most amazing bar mitzvah I ever went to was Bruce Joel Rubin was a friend of ours who wrote the movie Ghost, and he invited us to his son's bar mitzvah. And at his son's bar mitzvah, his son got up and said, now that I've gotten through my bar mitzvah, I'm announcing that I'm renouncing Judaism.
He wanted to be a Buddhist.
And his name was Ari, and he said, from now on, I'm going to believe in Ariism. So, so that was pretty amazing as a speech at a bar mitzvah, but he should have to give all the money back.
I bet that surprised the rabbi.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it did. But his father is a Buddhist, and so he was not. He didn't mind. But
I was told that I couldn't be a cop and a Buddhist at the same time.
Wow,
I thought was weird. But
yeah, that is weird. So I don't think
one other thing too.
Sure.
I don't know if it's a true story or not, but. I heard that at Paramount Studio, when they finally tore down the Star Trek set, underneath the set, they found one of the figures that was used in the original King Kong movie.
I doubt that. It's possible. It's possible, but I haven't heard that. So,
So when the story was written, they said there was a joining together of the primitive and the future.
Huh, how fun. That's fun. Well, cool. Well, thank you, Mike. So,
All right.
yay. So now, before we go to a Mr. Sci-Fi question, I just wanted for Benjamin and Emily, I wanted to mention that that we were talking about diversity and so forth. And this is actually, here, if you look at this, this is a book called Black No More. It's the first novel written by an African-American, the first science fiction novel. And it was written in 1930, and it was set in 1933. And it was about, it's a satire on a scientist who develops a way to turn Black people white. And it's about how that overthrows everything in America. And it's a great, great, great book. And this is the dust jacket that Dave helped me clean up of blemishes. And it's this is the first edition of it. And it's a great, great book. And I thought you might find that interesting.
Yes,
So,
they think we're going to find it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That'll be a movie.
yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah.
Show it to the Mr. Sci-Fi people.
Yes. Those. Yeah. Thanks, Dave. This is the book Black No More. I'm going to do a Mr. Sci-Fi on this book. George Schuyler is the writer. He knew all the major figures in the Black events back then. He knew, Langston Hughes and everybody. So yeah. So great. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Adam?
Yes, there is. We have a question from Scott Gamble.
Hi, Scott.
Who asks, having grown up in LA, do you have a story of a chance meeting with an old Hollywood personality that may have happened, other than your Star Trek encounters?
Let me think. That's a really interesting question. I mean, the cool thing about LA was that you would see these actors sort of everywhere you went. And I remember one time when I went to meet my editor on the Twilight Zone Companion at the Beverly Hills Hotel, I looked into the Polo Lounge and there was Bob Fosse, and that was pretty fun. And gosh, it's I was
Leonard Maltin's party with the
Leonard
piano.
Maltin would throw great
With the
parties.
piano.
Oh yeah, well it was really interesting because Leonard Maltin would have these parties where he would screen prints of great movies from the 30s, and it was always a very diverse group of people. And he had this couple who had just written a book about or done a CD about ukulele players, and they sang a little song on the ukulele, and I thought that was nice. And then this old guy got up and said, well, since everyone is singing tonight and singing their own songs, I thought I would maybe sing one or two that I wrote. And so, and I was going, oh my God, this is going to be embarrassing. And and Leonard Maltin sits down at the piano and starts accompanying this guy, and he starts singing supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and then he goes into you're beautiful, you're 16, and you're mine. And he was one of, I guess, is it the Sherman Brothers? Yeah. And it was just an amazing moment. And he and his brother were two of the great composers of all time. And that was just a magical moment. That was quite something.
I forgot which one, but his son, one of the surviving.
Rob.
Yeah,
Richard is surviving.
Yep. So it's Robert. That's right. Robert's son tells the story of his dad being kind of bummed out one day when he came home from school, and why he was even there is because a song from Mary Poppins was Julie Andrews liked everything except one song, which was their favorite song. So she rejected that when they were trying to come up with something else. And he says, "How was your day in school?" And he says, "Well, we had the polio vaccine." And he knew that the kid was just freaked out about needles. He said, "And you didn't mind the shot?" He goes, No, they put on a cube of sugar. And we just ate it.
Right.
And he thought for a second and said, "Gotta go." He called his brother. They wrote "Spoonful of Sugar."
That's great.
Wow.
That's great. And but I mean, here in Hollywood, you can meet many of your idols. I remember when I got my first job on a studio lot, which was Friday the 13th, the series, which I story edited. They were just having, I think, like the 75th anniversary of Paramount, and they had this big party one night in the parking lot. They converted it to this enormous party with thousands of people. And I remember that Billy Wilder was there, and John Travolta and Sean Connery. and everyone was like treating Sean Connery like he was royalty. I mean, even John Travolta was very deferential, and Billy Wilder was holding forth, and he was quite amazing. Yeah, I mean, you just meet these people like Kurt Siodmak, who wrote the movie The Wolfman. I met him long ago, and June Foray would be at Leonard's parties. June Foray, the great voice of Rocky the Squirrel and Natasha and so many others, and Talkie Tina for that matter. And so it was. Oh, and one of the greatest people we ever saw was maybe, like when Elaine and I were first newly married, there was some little notice in the paper that Cary Grant was going to be giving a talk at like the College of the Redlands, way out in the boonies. And so we bought 2 tickets and we drove out there, and he was in his early 80s at that point, but he was just astonishing. And it was so wonderful to see him in person. That was just remarkable. And we got seats right up front, and it was just, he took questions, and the first question was one woman in the balcony said, will you marry me? Because he was still very much Cary Grant, and that was just great. Yeah, Elaine's gonna walk the dog. Is there anything you want to say?
No, just tell them a minute about our vacation.
A minute about our vacation. I'll vamp. Yeah, but no. So, but it was great being in Hollywood, growing up in Hollywood, and I mean the Brown Derby was still here when I was a kid. Many of the Hollywood landmarks that are gone now were extant. Well, I went to the MGM auction when my mom bought me the catalog so I could go and see all the preview days for the MGM auction when I was 12, and it was astonishing. I mean, it was astonishing. One room just full of Roman armor, and I snuck behind the fence and went onto the back lot, which was about to be bulldozed and turned into condominiums. And there was a fake facade of brick, which was actually chicken wire behind it, peeling off a building, and I actually took that home, that piece of fake brick, and I still have it. And because MGM was the greatest studio in the world, and it had the greatest back lot in the world. There's a terrific book about the MGM back lot that I just got, and that's where Twilight Zone was shot. So it's that brought back a lot of cool memories. So yep, really fun. So okay, so I guess I'll take my turn, and hopefully Elaine will be back before I'm done. But if not, I'll tell you what she's doing. She's helping with the Space Command, for God's sake, and many other things. So yes, we had a lovely vacation in Morro Bay. It was just before they closed everything down up there, so we could actually have lovely meals outside and look at shops. And we bought a painting, which is quite lovely. Let's see, I don't think I can show it from here on either of these cameras, but I'll post something about it later. And I got something I've always wanted, long wanted, which is this little necklace, which has a little thing that holds a dog. It holds a dog. It holds pieces of meteorite pieces from Mars. So I'm wearing Mars around my neck, and that's really, really cool. And so beyond that, and also when we were up there, I found a T-shirt that said "I'm moving to Mars," and so I wore that one day up there, and people kept saying to me, "I'm with you, buddy. Me too." So I think people are really sick of the pandemic, and but a lot's going on. We're doing a lot. I was invited to contribute a story to an anthology called Space 1979. So I just wrote an introduction to that book about 1970 science fiction. And I've been contemplating in Space Command. I knew I would have a cameo. So I played this character in a spacesuit who watches Jack Kemmer crash land at the beginning of the pilot. And they asked me what name I wanted that character to have. And I'm wearing my spacesuit, the one you see behind me there. And so I said, well, let's call him Grizzled Space Jockey, which is how it's credited. But then later we were shooting the battle on Titan with these freedom fighters in cobbled together spacesuits on Titan fighting synthetic humans, these synths. And one of the actors didn't show up. So I said, well, I can put on a spacesuit. So I threw it all together, and I get blasted, vaporized. And then at the end of the pilot, you see a sculpture garden with Jack Kemmer's statue, Captain Kemmer's statue in the foreground, but in the background, you see a statue of me. And so I thought it'd be very fun to write a story that links those 3 appearances as one character. And so when they invited me to write this story for the anthology, I thought that'd be a great opportunity. So this past weekend, I wrote this story, Grizzled Space Jockey. And so here it is. And I'll be reading it on Mr. Sci-Fi, and Dave and I can cobble together some visuals for it. But it's a very fun story, and I really enjoyed writing it once I got my got the tone right. And so I did that. And I'm working on the new book, Greenlighting Yourself, and we're working on finishing 102, the second hour of Space Jam, getting a lot of great visual effect shots in. So we'll have that done probably, February. And I had an idea for restructuring the third hour so we can release that sooner rather than later. It's really working. And we started shooting the fourth hour, not including the 2-hour pandemic episode. So we're doing all that stuff, building alien spaceship sets and futuristic hospital sets and tons of stuff. And then meantime, we're working on the Showrunners Network, where we're going to be shooting 6 2-hour pilots, and we're also looking to shoot Elaine's feature Voiceless Roar. So I reached out to Barbara Bain to see if she might want to play a mother and have Juliet Landau, her daughter, play her daughter. And so we're going to follow up on that, and that would be hugely fun. And and let's see if I'm forgetting other stuff. No, life is good. I mean, I have very few complaints, none actually. And life is everything I want it to be. I'll be glad when the pandemic's over, when we get the vaccine and all turn into zombies. If any of the movies I've ever seen have been a guide, because if every movie that ever has a fast-tracked vaccine, people turn into zombies. That, just to let you guys know, that's 28 Days Later and all these other movies. So World War Z, but no, things are great. So I'm glad that we're all together. I'm glad that we have ways to share on Zoom and so forth. So in YouTube, and I'm posting on YouTube a lot. And so if you want to see more of me, subscribe to Mr. Sci-Fi, and you can throw some money our way out on the Patreon page for Marc Zicree. And am I forgetting anything? I don't know. I don't think so. I think I've kind of covered some of the basics. I've been as I said, I've been alphabetizing my science fiction collection, and it's just really fun to come across, books that I didn't know I had. For instance, Dave, you'll find this interesting, and you might too, Mike. There's this guy who co-writes historical novels with Newt Gingrich. Okay, he's an extreme conservative, and he wrote a science fiction novel called 1 Second After, which is about an electrical pulse that wipes out all the electrical devices in the world or in America. And so apparently I met him, and he signed a copy of the first edition of that book to me, and he signed it, I'm a big fan or whatever the hell. And the introduction of the book is by Newt Gingrich. And it's like, oh, wow. Well, that's pretty cool.
It's like magic time.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like a non-magic magic.
Yes. Right. Yes. And, but it's just kind of fun because I had no idea I had that book. I had no idea I'd met that guy or that he was a fan of my work. So it's pretty cool to dig up these things that I didn't even know I owned. And so very, very cool. And by the way, we just watched a Russian science fiction movie that just came out called Sputnik, and you can get that on VOD, and it's kind of in the realm of Alien, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really good. So if anyone wants to spend $3, they can watch that film on Amazon or whatever, and it's fun. It's a good film. Well done. So that's about it. So does anyone else have anything else they need to add? Elaine.
I have another Mr. Sci-Fi question.
Please, yes, let's do it.
We have another new viewer, Nomadic Brian, joining us, and they say, regarding Robert Heinlein's Friday.
Yes.
Do you recall the book? And if so, do you think it would have made a great film?
I haven't read that one. I'm not a big fan of the later Heinlein books. I don't even really much like his adult fiction. I liked his juveniles because, again, he was, Heinlein was a very weird guy, and by my lights. But in the juvenile novels, they, like Half Spacesuit with Travel and Citizen of the Galaxy. These are, wonderful, wonderful books that I read growing up and I still love. Friday I didn't read. It's interesting because as Heinlein got older, he started to have not enough blood going to his brain, so his work suffered, and then he had surgery, and his mind was more or less back again, and his life was saved by blood transfusions. So at science fiction conventions for about a decade until he died, you could get an autographed book from him. You could have him sign your book, only if you got a blood transfusion. So all of these science fiction conventions would have rooms set up for blood transfusions, and so that was a very interesting fact. And but no, so I don't know enough about that book, but I think Have Spacesuit Will Travel would make a great movie, and various people have tried over the years to make that into a film, and it's never gotten produced. So but there's a very nice audiobook of it that I can recommend. And so there you go. So in terms of Elaine, just to finish up in case she doesn't get her turn, she's trying to get her movies made. We very much want to make her films, and so we have an idea of shooting on the weekends, ongoingly moving forward, Voiceless Roar. And I'm trying to put together a cast for that we can, launch a Kickstarter campaign and raise money to shoot it. So there'll be more coming about that very, very soon. And Elaine is a joy to write with and direct with. And she just rewrote a scene in the Forgiveness that we're going to be shooting very shortly. And it just keeps going. It's it's really, really fun. And so that's about it for me right now. One thing I will tell you that's pretty fun is, I bought a salvage suit from Aliens. That's when they open up Ripley's hibernation thing. You see these guys and open the door, cut open the door, and then they come in and they say, well, she's alive, so that kills our salvage. So that was available on eBay. So I bought that suit. But recently there was an auction that had the backpack from that suit. They had been, and it was like very low priced. So I put in a bid and I won it. So now we're reuniting these two pieces of this suit, and you can actually see Ethan McDowell wearing it in Ripple Effect in the pandemic episode. So it came just in the nick of time. So very, very fun. So anything else? Yes, Carol.
Yeah. You meeting on the 24th or the 31st?
Don't know yet. Probably the 24th, but the 31st I'm not sure. So we'll talk about it. But I think the 24th we probably will. But Dave, did you have something to add? No? Okay, well, I think we've come to the end of the road for now, and it's been another wonderful time. And if you aren't subscribed to Mr. Sci-Fi, please do, because I try to be entertaining. And and you can watch Space Command on that as well. So thanks very much, guys. We'll see you next time, and stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll talk really soon. Bye, guys. Bye, guys. Bye, fans.